Live. Wait, there we go. Now we have audio. We're live.
Howdy, everyone.
Welcome back to another episode of, what are we calling this now? The State of Modern, I guess.
I guess so.
I think that's what I posted on Facebook, so that's what
It's
we're
official
going with.
now?
Yep, I guess.
After 3 episodes, it's kind of locked in.
Wait, there we go. Now we have audio. We're live.
Oh no! And it's
Oh,
delayed.
and we're hearing ourselves.
No,
there we go.
there we go.
Oh,
I see we already got Rowan in chat, so welcome, Rowan. Thanks for being here tonight. Along with Rowan, I guess, we have a very special guest with us tonight.
oh, I'm special.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Matt. Most people know me as Foster. I've been in the Magic community for, I don't know, ever.
Since the beginning.
Since almost the beginning. Day 2, I guess is what we'll say. I've been playing the game almost 30 years. I ran a shop for a long time. And I know most of the people, and most people know me, even if I don't necessarily know them.
By some chain of connections or events
Yes.
or something.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Matt, you ran and I think you owned the card store as well.
Yeah, so I
Games.
ran the game store, Battlezone Games, from 2004 to 2012. I had a small stake in it. I wasn't the primary owner, but I did own a percentage of it. And it was my baby. It was my bread and butter. It's everything that I did. I loved it second to my family. My family always comes first. But yeah, it was what I dedicated those 8 years to, and it was fantastic, and I loved it, and I'm glad that the development that we had at Battlezone were able to kind of kick off what First Turn is doing now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where I initially met you. Is you're running the card store. I was just some punk kid
Yeah.
coming in and just making you babysit me or whatever you want to call it.
I was going to say, you didn't own Battlezone. I don't think you were around at Battlezone at the time, because I don't remember you.
No,
being there
you
when
picked
I
up.
was
You
there.
came in after I had left.
Right,
It, yeah.
but Battlezone is where I started too for Magic, so that was the first store I knew where to go to get cards. That's how I got access to cards in the first place and got into the game. So
Yeah, most of the people listening, that was where they got started.
yep,
We kind of invited you this week because you were a big Jund player. You always loved Jund. And we looked through the Pro Tour and the Grand Prix that happened throughout the year. And spoiler alert, there are 4 Grand Prix where Jund won.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the reign of Jund throughout Modern. I thought it came a little bit later in my memory that was what it was. But no, it is just hitting hard in 2012.
Yeah, and I was playing Jund before Jund was a thing. It was still those color combinations. Some of them were like a little bit of a hybrid. We called it the Rock. There was other decks names for it, but essentially once Shards of Alara came out and it became Jund as we know it, that's just been my play style in any format, whether it's Legacy, Modern, Pioneer, any format. Lately I've been doing a lot of Canadian Highlander as Jund. It's just those are the cards. That's the style that I really enjoy playing. Yeah.
Is there anything that or is there a story behind how you got into Jund?
Not really. I think I fell in love with Bloodbraid Elf. That was sort of the first card that I've loved Lightning Bolt since 1994. Lightning Bolt is by far one of my favorite cards. I have alpha ones. I've got Judge foil ones. I love my Lightning Bolts. And that's sort of the deck you can play it in the most consistently, which unfortunately in Modern isn't right now because Unholy Heat, but it had its time. But those were, between Bloodbraid Elf and the early days with Liliana the Veil, and even when it was in the standard format where you had Char and the Berserker guy, Scab Clan Mauler, there was just so much, right?
Oh, yeah. That one.
that.
Scab Clan Mauler is a one red, one green.
Oh.
Had Bloodthirst, and when it comes into play, it gets +2/+2, and it's a 1/1 trampler. So turn 1, you start with the Scorched Rusalka, you dome your opponent for 1, you play your 2/2 or your 2-drop that's actually a 3/3. It's a dash, Scab Dash Clan.
I probably spelled scab wrong.
And it's Mauler, not Brawler.
Oh, well.
Come on, man, where were you in
Oh yeah, okay.
You know
no,
that guy.
I think I have foil copies of
Yeah.
this card.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So you play that guy, and then you follow it up with the centaur that damaged your opponent whenever they played activated abilities. So like Jitty's all over the format, so people are like activating their Jitty and taking 2 damage because that's stupid centaur.
Oh, yeah.
It was a 3/4 for 3.
That was a good rate too at the time.
At the time,
Burning
yeah.
Tree,
Burning Tree
something.
Shaman. Yeah, Burning Tree Shaman. And then you'd follow up with your 4-drop of Giant Sulfuge. That was the format. That was my baby. And then a couple of years, that was Ravnica. A couple of years later, we got Bloodbraid Elf into Blightning. Like that was nuts. If you could hit the Blightning off the Bloodbraid Elf, and then or well, in Legacy, I like to hit him to Turok off the Bloodbraid Elf, but they won't give us him to Turok in Modern, and
that card is very good. I like that card a lot. I love.
You feel good hitting Thoughtseize off Bloodbraid Elf. Let me tell you how good it feels to get him to Turok. I wish Legacy was better, and I wish Jund was better in Legacy. It's just not.
Yeah.
You have Brainstorm and Force of Wills, so you got to be really good if you want to be good in Legacy, and Jund is not there.
It doesn't do the fair magic.
It doesn't. It tries to stay fair. It doesn't do the scummy. Yeah, you don't have free spells. I mean, you have Grief, but then like it's not the same.
Jund just really feels like one of those decks that just is totally based on its synergy. All right, like every piece kind of interacts with each other.
Yeah,
and provides some sort of support and value.
Exactly, and the other thing that makes it synergistic is not only yourself, but you're also synergizing with your opponent, which is kind of weird. But it's like if you ever sit down to like just Goldfish a Jund deck, it doesn't work because you've got things like Thoughtseize and Inquisition and Liliana, and so those are the things that you can't. Like, how do I interact with this? And then I've got my Tarmogoyf. So I'm going to turn 1, crack my fetch, Thoughtseize you, play my Tarmogoyf. Well, yeah, it's however big I can imagine it being because I'm just goldfishing. Yeah. So it synergizes with yourself, but also the deck itself plus your opponent. It definitely relies on that opponent's interaction.
Right. Especially around the graveyard, which I noticed when I was kind of watching some of the Pro Tour footage today. There was some really cool interactions. Like one... Reed Duke was getting swung down by like a Tarmogoyf and something else, and he double bolted a Doron, and in response, the guy abrupt decayed his Pyromancer's Ascension, and that pumped Goyf big enough that he could hit him from like almost exactly lethal, pretty close or something like that.
Well, yeah, if you want to see how to use Tarmogoyfs, Reed Duke is the person to watch.
Right, yeah.
But he couldn't be here, so I'm here.
Yeah. Next episode.
No, it's really cool with those interactions. And Tarmogoyf is insane with some of those weird interactions. Because I remember running the game store and we would have those interactions where somebody's going to lightning bolt your Tarmogoyf. Well, the way the stack resolves, now Lightning Bolt is putting an instant in the graveyard and Tarmogoyf's toughness is pumped, so you better make sure that Lightning Bolt is still going to kill it. And then for a long time we used Tarfire in the deck because you had that tribal, and so like getting...
Foster, it's typo now. You can't say that word.
We're going to we're still talking all days. I won't talk about the stack. We'll just talk about tribal. But a lot of times you had to argue with yourself, like with Lightning Bolt gives me 3 damage, but Tarfire gives me 2 damage now, but an extra damage more often later.
Right.
So that was helpful. Urza Saga has done some stupid things with Tarmogoyf too.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think there's like Jund Saga is
Jund Saga.
Yeah,
that's what I'm playing right now. Yeah. It's so much fun. Yeah. It's and I'm excited. More recently, I know we're gonna eventually talk old school, but the current build, Orcish Bowmasters, you guys kind of dogged on it well, not so much Bowmasters, dogged on the Ring a little bit more last week.
Yes. But, I said specifically that if Bowmasters was like the best card in Lord of the Rings, I'd be perfectly happy with that. I think Bowmasters is a totally fine card.
I'm a firm believer Bowmasters is a better card in the format. The Ring is fine, but the Ring is only so situational. Like it's not
better as in like more powerful, but like good.
I think more decks are going to benefit from the Bowmasters than the Ring. I think part of the thing that people see with the Ring, specifically with this most recent Pro Tour, was the Ring is a new card. It just came out 2 weeks ago. It's colorless card draw. It's whatever. Right. So everybody's like, let's just jam it in our decks. And so when you look at the Pro Tour coverage, you're like, 80% of the decks are running the Ring. Well, yeah, but how many of those decks are benefiting from the ring? Because that's a different whole different dynamic. So you can't say let's ban the ring right away because it's 80% of the field or whatever the number is. I don't have the real numbers, but
because it's a brand new card.
Because it's a brand new card and people just wanted to run it in their decks.
Yeah.
Let's give it a few weeks, maybe a couple of months. Let's see how the format resolves. Now, I know that there's going to be a lot of decks that are going to benefit from it, but I think that Bowmaster as a whole is going to be a lot more beneficial in the long run, and a lot more decks and a lot more styles are going to play it than just everything jamming the ring. Like, what was that blue card? Treasure Cruise. When Treasure Cruise came out, and I'm playing, like, Steam Vents in my burn deck because I want to play Treasure Cruise, like, something just didn't feel right.
So when I have this, my memory is back when Treasure Cruise came out, like, everybody, from my perspective, everybody like enjoyed that time. It wasn't like, yeah, we were waiting for it to get banned. Everybody knew that
we knew it was going to get banned.
Happen.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a toxic environment with like Hogak or Eldrazi Winter of like,
well,
it felt different at that point for that card. And
I liked Hogak though.
Hogak,
yes,
Hogak
he needed to go.
Yes,
he needed to go. But no, you're right. Treasure Cruise. I think the thing that made Treasure Cruise clunky and the reason it eventually got banned is because it was, I'm going to say this, I don't know if it's correct, but it was inbreeding the format. So many decks felt exactly the same. Even though they were doing different things, all of them were just doing the same stuff. And it made for, I think the term WotC uses is unfun interactions or something like that, where it takes the fun out of the format. And now all we're doing is just these things. I'm going to play a whole bunch of cards, like the same thing that happened with Gitaxian Probe. Yeah. Like, we're going to just, every single deck is now going to run these 4 Gitaxian Probes, because for now I'm running a 56 card deck. Yep. Life total is a resource. Anybody who doesn't know that hasn't been playing long enough.
And you get free information.
And you get free information, absolutely. Yeah. But it doesn't draw you a card. Yeah, but it doesn't need to.
So this weekend I cube drafted, and my turn, turn 1, Dragon Rage Chandler. He went, then I went, I played Dragon Rage Chandler, then he went Orcish Bowmastered it.
And just jammed it, yeah.
Next game, I had up, it wasn't exactly perfectly sequenced. I had up a Force Spike, and I played a Young Pyromancer off curve with the Force Spike, and then he goes on his turn 3, and Orcish Bowmasters it. And the whole time that was happening, I was going, how is this not pushing out these? How is this not homogenizing it? You can't play anything with a 1 power almost without like really opening up yourself to just getting blowed out. And the blue-red decks are starting to show that in the format. Those Murktide lists have completely cut Dragon Rage Chandler and Ragavan.
Oh,
well, the other thing, a lot of them have cut Ragavan. Some of them are still running the Channelers. They're just not going to run it out there in turn 1.
Yes.
Because they're going to wait until they've got the cards in the graveyard to make him the 3/3, so you have to earn it. The thing that makes the Orc a little excessive is probably the Flash. I understand the concept behind it. Like, the idea behind the Orc is that, like, your opponent draws the card, and bam, we're going to flash him in.
Right.
I think the 1 damage to any target is maybe a little excessive, but overall, I think that he's fine. Then I've enjoyed him. I've had a lot of fun with him. I'm playing the current Jund Saga build, and it was so sweet to see him sort of come into the format and not fix Jund necessarily, but there was like, I remember playing it a few months ago or last year or something, and I'm just like, the deck is fun and good. And I've always been a Junder. Like, that's, I force it. Like, you're in Modern, you pick your deck you like and you go with it. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad.
Yep.
And I just felt like over the last couple of years, it needs that one more card. What am I missing to make this over the top the way it was in the early days? You know, when Liliana, and we had the Tarmogoyf into Liliana into Bloodbraid, and just everything, like, it just fit all the synergy together. And I think Bowmasters has done that because it gives us a little bit more competition against the Delver decks, against those blue-white control decks, because you're able to interact with them above and beyond just your Inquisitions and your Thoughtseize.
I think Bowmaster is pretty bad for Legacy, but that's kind of a whole nother topic. I think it is.
That's a whole conversation I would love
homogenized
to have
around that one. But I will say that I think Wizards of the Coast is getting closer and closer to that like punishing draw spell. Whereas this one is right on the cusp of a little too powerful because it hits every target, any target. I think everybody that I've talked to says that it's that little part of the text that pushes it over the edge.
Right.
Whereas all the other effects that they've come up with recently are replacement effects of their draw. So Hole Breacher, Narset, they're way more punishing, and they can like lock out an opponent. Like if you're, again, going back to that cube situation, I had a Wheel of Fortune in my deck, and it was a live draw, and it was a live draw even up to like the last turn, even though my opponent had no Orcish Bowmasters on the field. So I could have gone into it. I would have been lethal on the next turn, but it was still a live play. Whereas if that replacement effect would have happened, there's no hope at that point.
I mean, the downside is still there, right? For drawing the cards regardless, though. Like, that much, even with the wheel, I can't imagine being on the Bowmaster side of that. You get to just split 7 damage wherever you want, especially if there's creatures on board. Like, it's
a board wipe, and then you're swinging for lethal next turn.
Right.
And if you're looking at it from that perspective, the replacement effects, Bowmaster came out, and all of a sudden these decks with like the Days Undoing and the Hole Breacher and all that stuff, like where are those at now? Like nobody's playing those decks anymore because they're like, well, I could stop my opponent from drawing cards and be really snarky with Teferi and Narset and all that stuff, or I could just kill them.
and just the incremental advantage that you get off of that taxing ability, or that 1 damage here or there, or the pump up to a 2/2 is just.
I actually had thoughts. I really like Bowmaster as like a Taxes card. I think it definitely fit really well into Death and Taxes and Legacy for the most part, and I've seen it in Modern and some lists too.
When are we going to start seeing Miku Koro see some play? Miku Koro is a Kamigawa land. It's from Saviors, I think. It's a colorless, tap 2, each player draws a card. Yep. Tap 2 and tap it, each player draws a card.
Yeah.
And so, like, I got my Bowmasters. Like, I'm gonna flash up my Bowmasters. Oh, by the way, let's both draw a card, get some damage. I'm just saying.
That'd be funny. Or Gyro Reach Sanitarium.
Yeah.
Draw a discard.
It's a blue card. Any color blue instant. Both players draw 2 cards from Dissensions.
Oh yeah, Vex something or other. I have a Nekuzar Commander deck, so I do all sorts of stupid things like that. And but each player draws 3 cards. It's like one blue, 1 colorless. Each player draws 3 cards. Or I mean, something that would work real synergistic is Burning Inquiry. What about like the old decks with Burning Inquiry and that what's that skeleton guy, the
hollowed one.
Yeah, he's like a 4/4 for 5 or something. Like, why are we not playing that with Bowmasters?
So
I think we saw that at the beginning of the format. Yeah.
Did we? Okay.
Pretty recently, I saw a really, really busted list that was like Waste Knots, Bowmasters, Shieldred, Burning Inquiry. So they'd Burning Inquiry, make enough mana to cast a Shieldred, and then Burning Inquiry again. Play like a Bowmasters, Burning Inquiry again, and then kill him,
I think people are liking Bowmaster so much they're up in the number of Shieldreds that are played in the format. I'm pretty sure that percentage has gone up.
Probably.
Well, I made the effort to get my Bowmasters right away. I knew that of all the cards in the deck that I wanted, of all the cards in the format.
Got 2. I need 2 more.
Yep. I picked them all up. I just said, you know what? I'm gonna just get these now because I know that it's something that I'm gonna want to play forever. Like I've loved them in Legacy. I love them in Modern. We could talk for hours on Legacy though. So
that's another podcast.
I'll wait on that one.
So we'll get back on to the main topic here. Or one last thing I want to throw in is like a thing that just popped up today. I don't know if you guys saw the article. Wizards of the Coast has no plans on supporting Modern on Arena. Period.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah, they explicitly said it in this article. I know a lot. I didn't really see a path for it to come. I think everybody had an expectation that Pioneer is going to be legal on Arena someday, and they did say in either late 2024 or early 2025, Pioneer will be complete on Arena, and that is with Pioneer's Masters coming out.
Yep.
So I don't think that's a straight to Pioneer, new cards coming into the format, which we kind of fear for that format at this point. But that was just some kind of relevant news for like the modern format as a whole and WotC's support and how they prioritize it.
Which it feels unfortunate because like there's certain cards that are in there that you can access without actually having access to them. Like for example, the Power 9 are in the game. They're programmed in the game and everything. But you can only get them through this historic card that searches for the Power 9 and puts it into your deck.
It's that dude.
The Oracle the Alpha.
Mm-hmm.
So
now, see, and I'm not surprised by that in the slightest. I think that Wizards has one of two things they have to do. They're either going to leave Arena sort of as it is as the new cards come out and that's it, or they're going to bail on Magic Online. And I don't think that there's any way they could bail on Magic Online. I think there's too much invested in it. I think there's too much commitment to it. And I don't think it makes sense for them to try to manage the same card pools in both environments. And especially with Arena, where they're creating their own specific Arena sets that are like 1/3 of your deck or whatever the cards are. And it's random based on only something that you can do. Yeah, things. And there was the old Micropose game in 1997 that had a similar interaction where there were cards unique to that set that you could only play online because of the interactions that they had.
Yeah.
And so I think that the way that they have Arena set up as sort of this mobile app game that's kind of its own thing that does its own card pool, 100% honesty, I wouldn't want to play Modern on that. I think that needs to be what it is as an independent platform away from Paper Magic or Magic Online. Now, I'm also biased, and I hate the digital media forms as a whole because I have a collection in real life, and I don't want to have to buy a second collection. I know it's not as expensive, but that's just my personal bias. I know Magic Online is a great resource, and I love the fact that I can watch other people generate deck lists and create things and work with things. But that's just my personal vendetta against Magic Online.
I always expected them to push out Magic Online, but like you said, it looks like they're going to have two complete different platforms with almost two different demographics of player base.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're so different in their demographics that they want to coexist. What are you looking to do? Are you looking for what was that? Hearthstone? Is that what that game was?
Mm-hmm.
Hearthstone?
Yeah.
Are you looking for
Still
a Hearthstone
is.
kind of yeah.
Yeah.
Or are you looking for, I want to test and I want to develop for my Legacy event, for my Modern event, for my Pioneer event, or Draft, or whatever? Because
like the competitive versus the what would you call it, introductory player base.
Yeah, I think
like
Arena's
a softer game versus.
Yeah, Arena's going to be, I don't want to say more casual necessarily, but it's more of a stepping stone, similar to what like the Duels of the Planewalker was when they had it on Xbox and PlayStation and stuff. It was like,
Magic
here's this
Duels.
free download, or it's $10 or whatever, and then take this code in and go to your local game store and get a Scavenging Ooze and or a or one of the Titans. There was a couple of different promos they ran with that. But that's what Duels of the Planeswalker was. They never progressed on it. They never created any more than what it was. So it didn't make sense to sort of backtrack and say, let's put all these old cards into this new format. Let's just keep going forward. And I think that's where Arena's going to be. Arena is its own thing, and Magic Online is its own thing. Obviously, the game's the same mechanics because it's the same game, but they're two target demographics. They're not the same. Yeah, they're not the same.
That's interesting that I didn't know that you could do something like that on Duels, where like you get a code and would you get a physical card in real life? Like you could get your code.
Yeah. When I was running,
One second.
Lucas might have one.
1 second.
When you bought the game, either bought the game or downloaded it or whatever, you had to download it. You couldn't. There was no physical copies of the game.
Sure.
But you could get on the Xbox store and you download it, and they say, "Here's this code that usually you got as an email, and you had to print it out." And you brought it into the game store. I was running the game store, and I had these pile of cards. And there was the first one was Anissa Ravine, that they had cleaned up the art because she was a little bit robust on the original art, and they covered her up a little bit more on the promo art.
Yeah.
that's whatever. And then they had a Sarah avatar with an alternate art. This was probably M10 set. There was a couple other ones. I have all of them at home, but I'm sure we could look it up too. But and then there was also Garrick, and there was I think there was a Garrick and a Liliana. Then they had Inferno Titan or Primeval Titan. No, not Primeval, because everybody was mad because Primeval Titan was not the one that they gave out. They had a Sun Titan was the pre-release promo.
Yes.
And then they had a Frost Titan, an Inferno Titan, and a Grave Titan were Duels of the Planeswalkers one. And like 5 years later, we get a promo that's like a GP promo for Primeval Titan. So there are promos for all the Titans.
Right.
But yeah, so that was and you walked into the game store and they said, "Hey, I got this code," and I said, "Sweet, here you go." And then I gave you like an introductory 30 card deck as well, and then the first taste is free.
Yeah.
I have one of those still in the it was the PlayStation 1.
Yeah,
it
sure.
is
for PS2 or
Vampire.
No, it was PS4. Yeah.
Vampire Nocturnus.
Yeah. The Vampire Nocturnus and Sarah Avatar and Black Card. Oh no, the Nocturnus. I don't know.
Some
I'm
like
sure we
dragon. I bet. I don't know.
Yeah. Why do we have the internet? We could look it up if we could.
That would be.
Why do we even remember?
Anyway,
that?
I just thought it would
right?
be really cool if Arena were to introduce something like that, like a feedback loop where, okay, you take this, you do get this thing from Arena, you take this code to the store gives you a card.
It's actually the opposite.
You buy a pre-release kit. I know.
You buy a pre-release kit.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
and
like,
they
you
give
get the
code
feedback
for
loop.
the Arena. Yeah.
It should go back and forth. Right?
Yeah.
Why not?
They do. They have run promos like that a little bit.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
Yeah, I imagine so.
So
anyway, on to this back.
Let's hit the list here,
now that we're
boys.
finally
introduce
and talked a little bit about what's going on.
So
today.
let me get you in the time traveling machine and bring you back to 20.
Do you remember 2012?
Yeah, I was playing like Pokemon Diamond or Pearl or Black and White at this time, whichever one came out in 2012. I think Pokemon Diamond and Pearl was coming out around this time, so I would have been in.
So you were a child.
I was in middle school.
All right.
Yeah, I was probably in school. I was in school. I started band that year.
You're in high school?
No, middle school.
Middle school?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yep. Playing Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. I didn't even have a cell phone yet. I was too young for that. My parents were like, "Oh, we'll get you one when you turn.
When you need to,
when you need one."
I support that. I don't get my kids cell phones until they need them.
Mm-hmm.
They get them when they go to high school. But in 2012, I had all 4 of my kids.
I think 2 or 3 years later, I became friends with Michael, and he would introduce me to Magic for the first time. So,
what was your first memory of Modern?
I mean, the announcement. I remember when they announced Modern was going to be a thing. I remember we were talking around the game store about all the different environments. Everybody knew Extended was dead. And we needed to figure out what are they going to do. And the big thing was Odyssey. A lot of people were like, I think it's going to go back to Odyssey. I think Odyssey is where they're going to trigger it. Some people were like, Invasion maybe. Some people said that it was going to be Odyssey because that's where the reserve list came up through Saga block. Mm-hmm. So you had Urza's Saga, Urza's Legacy, Urza's Destiny. Then they stopped the reserve list. So the next set, which I think was Odyssey Torment Judgment, that was the next block, and it might have been Invasion actually. Invasion. Yeah.
Gavin Voorhees talks about it in some video I watched. He's like, I was a big proponent of Invasion.
Invasion. That's why we started in Invasion, because then we can launch this new format and anybody can play anything and we can reprint to our heart's content because it doesn't cover the reserve list.
Yep.
Which is a whole nother conversation we can have some other time.
Oh yeah.
But it made sense. And so we were doing this, we called it what did we call it? We called it super standard. I think is what we were calling extended. Well, it was extended, but then there was more than extended because extended only went to 8 years rather than the 4 or 2 was the standard. It's a blur. But the most people were on the train that it was going to be going back to Odyssey block, and I don't know why they picked Odyssey versus Invasion. But Odyssey would put in all the Onslaught stuff, because that was the big thing too, is that, when they announced this was before Zendikar. So we're like, well, we need fetch land, we need filters, we need the Onslaught fetch lands. So it's obviously got to have Onslaught. We didn't have dual lands then either, because in the early days, Extended went back to wherever it stopped, like 5th edition, but you could still use the dual lands.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, which was weird, but so that was kind of where they were looking at, is where do we pick it up? Where do we start? So we would start building decks and coming up with ideas and try to figure out where they were going to put it. And then when they announced, hey, we're going to do this new Modern format, it's going to be the Modern layout, starting with 8th edition, which worked perfectly until they started printing supplemental material like the dual decks and Plane Chase and Commander and all these other formats that they started kicking into, because now everything's got the new layout, and you can't tell people, well, it's got a modern layout, so it's modern legal.
Right.
That's not entirely true.
It fell apart pretty quick.
Yeah.
Right after.
I'm a firm believer, I don't know if this is, I'm a firm believer that Modern, they will eventually, they won't phase out Legacy necessarily, but what'll eventually happen is all of the cards that are in Legacy will eventually filter into Modern. Modern will eventually be sort of that eternal format that everybody can play anything in. I feel that someday we will get Force of Will and Brainstorm into Modern. I think that you look at those two cards and you think Force of Will and Brainstorm would be insane in Modern. Well, would they though? I think that
Brainstorm definitely.
Yeah.
You don't have a true need for the 2-for-1
yeah.
of Force of Will right now.
But also, if you're looking at Brainstorm,
we already have Force Negation, right?
We have Force Negation, but
that's
partway
there.
All of the close cards to Brainstorm are banned with Ponder and
Yep.
Preordain and whatever.
Well, not anymore.
Oh, Preordain's open again, but do we have Sylvan Scrying, or is that one banned? I don't play enough blue. Not Sylvan Scrying. Sylvan Scrying's a blue.
Serum Vision?
Serum Vision.
That's
Serum
the
Vision's
one. That's
okay. That's
been the one to go to.
And Curiosity. No.
Brainstorm and Ponder are the only ones.
Consider.
That's the one. Yeah.
Peak was played for a time, telling time.
Yeah. We were talking about Consider versus Preordain when they unbanned Preordain, and I mean, one of them is one better than the other? The problem is one of them says the word instant, and the other one says sorcery. So that's a big thing.
One looks at 3, one looks at 2. There's all sorts of angles you can attack.
It depends on what you're playing it in. I think a lot of it is, it's not necessarily one is better than the other. I think they're different and they do different things.
Right.
When Modern was announced, they changed the Pro Tour to Modern, and then people started playing it. I remember people really started playing right after Innistrad came out. That's when the FNMs really started up, and the average Magic player started building a Modern deck. When you're running in the card store, at least back then, did you have this this hypothetical player that comes up to your storefront and goes, "Hello, Matt, I have $1,000. Can I buy a Modern deck, please?" Did that person
No. It was, the thing that we looked at with Modern is Modern was the next format. We were still aggressively playing Standard. Standard was the format to play. I was getting 60, 80 people to my Standard FNMs. We were getting people, that's the format that we played with Standard. And Modern was there, and we would do casually Modern events every once in a while. We would do a Modern Monday or whatever throughout the week. And sometimes I do Modern tournaments on Saturdays, but it wasn't like it is now. It wasn't the big, this is the format to play. And a lot of that was people just didn't know yet. We did a lot of casual stuff. There was a lot of other weird formats. Before Commander was the thing, there was 250, and then there was 5-color, and then there was some of the other formats, and then Commander became big.
Barely remember those.
Yeah.
Things.
Did you play some of those have some of those at FNM
We would
too?
no, that was more casual. We would do those on Saturdays and do casual events and stuff.
Okay.
A lot of those were hard to play competitively because they allowed for proxies, and 250 was an anti-format, so you can't. But when Commander became a thing, I had tons of cards because I played those old weird formats.
Yep.
So we didn't have a lot of Modern. Primarily what we would do is we'd do our regular FNM, and then after the FNM we would do a draft. And when we did start kind of feeding into Modern, because Modern became, when did they create it? 2010 or 2012? It was
2011, 2012.
Something okay. That
Yeah,
was when Modern
the
became
end
a
of
thing.
2011.
So
Yeah.
I left the game store at the end of 2012. So Modern was only, in its infancy when I left the shop.
Mm-hmm.
So that, which made sense as to why we didn't do a lot of stuff with it. The Pro Tour, there was the Pro Tour, and there was the demand for it. People still did want to play it, but most of the people that wanted to play Modern are the ones that, well, I spent all this money on my standard cards. I still want to play with my standard cards.
Right.
And then we said, well, you can't play Jace and Stoneforge Mystic because they're banned in Modern. But as far as Modern goes, they would put out, eventually I think they did a starter deck. That was their like big push for Modern, was for $35 you could buy like these 2 starter decks. And then right after the decks came out, this was like during Zendikar block. Right after the decks came out, one of them had Stoneforge Mystic in it, but they banned Stoneforge Mystic.
The standard challenge,
those were. It was Modern. It was the Modern. Yeah,
those were for standard.
Oh, those were standard.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind then. I'm
you
thinking
could
of something
play that
different.
deck in standard.
In standard, if you played it the full 60, 75, this is the deck you could play. But otherwise, Stoneforge Mystic was banned.
Yes,
that's right. I forgot they banned her in standard.
Because when Modern came out, the whole Zendikar was in that initial dump.
Yeah.
And then the first set to get put into Modern was
Innistrad.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. And then
we got Cody in the chat here.
Oh, what's up, Cody?
Cody was that person. He said he when I was new, I gave Moose like $800 to $1,000 and bought Infect, and that's how he started Modern.
And he still has Infect because I sold him a bunch of foil stuff for it.
He's like, no, it was for Modern.
For Modern, yeah.
For Modern.
I like the Modern decks, and it doesn't happen often, but something like Infect, like I said earlier, I'm a Jund player at heart, so when I can play a format, I want to play Jund, whether it's good or bad. Infect is the same way. Like, I love the Infect deck, and both Modern and Legacy, like, there's so much crossover between the 2 decks. Granted, in Modern, you've got black, whereas in Legacy, you've got blue, so it's a little different. But it's a lot of the same nuts and bolts of the cards. And you get like into your niche deck, and one of the big things about Modern is it's expensive. $1,000, $2,000, whatever. I'm gonna invest this money into it, but this is gonna be my deck because it's an eternal format and it never rotates. It updates, but it doesn't rotate. So like I get to use all these old cards, but then new cards come out. We get our Bowmasters. Well, I would love it if I could still play Bloodbraid Elf, but if I'm playing 4 mana for a card, I need to be winning the game, not moving to my combat step.
so let's put a pin in that now.
Yeah, go.
Let's hit these deck lists, and then we'll come back to that and see if your opinion has changed. Because like I go back and look at these deck lists, and I don't see those archetypes anymore. But,
okay.
Yeah. So, Players Championship. I don't know if I have an exact date on this.
Well,
there's a date on...
It must have It must have happened. I put it in
19,
chronological order.
So January 9th, 2012.
Yep.
So right away, here we go. Jund wins.
Yeah.
This is coming off of the back of Wild Nicottle getting banned, and Zoo was by far the most popular deck.
Zoo was insane.
Yeah.
Zoo was ridiculous. We had Kurt Ape and Wild Nicottle and that stupid Landfall guy, the Step Links. No, is it Step Links?
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I completely forgot that was played, like, at all. I was like, I know it got played in some capacity, but I thought it was like some rando.
No, because we had the Step Links or the fetch lands, and then if you would and for some reason they were playing you'd crack your fetch land and then jam with your Step Links, but then you jam with it and do I block? Do I not block? I don't have to crack my fetch land. And then it was nuts. That deck was so silly. And then when they came out with the Tribal Zoo was legit. When Time Spiral came out and we had Tribal Flames, and the Gaia's Might Get There was awesome. Gaia's Might was it's +1/+1 for each basic land type. So we're running Steam Vents again in our Might of Alara.
Yeah.
So we're running Steam Vents in our Zoo deck. We have 0 blue cards, but we need the island to trigger our domain.
For Tribal Flames, yeah.
For Tribal Flames, yeah. For Tribal Flames and Gaia's Might. Because 4 just isn't good enough.
Are you sure you don't just want to play Zoo and it just hasn't been viable since it got...
I want to
ban
build
that
Zoo
thing?
now. Like, I'm going to build Zoo
Definitely
now.
is
I
now,
just need
yeah.
to spend the money and get it. Like, there's only a handful of cards I'm missing.
Yeah.
But so this one, I looked over these lists yesterday when you sent me this, and yeah, like Bloodbraid Elf is fantastic, and it sort of took what Modern was, or what Standard was doing in Alara block and just juiced it up, because you get
all the amazing hits.
You get Bloodbraid Elf into Jun Charm, which was sweet. Or you could hit the Lily, and then they have to kill their creature before you bash. Sometimes you get your Kitchen Finks and just gain a couple of life. Like Kitchen Finks, I remember the frustration of wanting to play Liliana the Veil and Kitchen Finks at the same time. And double green and double black don't mesh very well. But then you get your the Twilight Mire. Twilight Mire was like,
Well,
yeah.
and this one, this is before I think Deathrite Shaman came in the format.
Yeah,
so
Deathrite
this,
Shaman
this,
is in this
this
format.
is before, or
Yeah.
this is right before RTR.
Pro
yeah.
Tour. Yep.
Yeah,
Which is
Deathrite Shaman.
Pro Tour.
Deathrite Shaman.
critical.
Wow. I watching the coverage of that. There's every single matchup. there was
Deathrite
at
Shaman
least
should
one
not
Deathrite
exist
Shaman.
in this format, and it doesn't.
You don't think it could come
Today?
back?
No, I don't
Today?
think it could come back. I think
Cool.
fetch lands are too prominent, and I think, dude, I played Canadian Highlander a couple of days ago, and I single-handedly won that game with Deathrite Shaman. Like, not close. Like, that game, yeah. Like, and this is like Canadian Highlander, where you've got all your vintage stuff. Like,
Right.
you've got everything.
Right.
And yeah, Deathrite Shaman. You can't play that guy in anything. I can't take you anywhere.
Maybe we should line it up against the format today and see if it changes your mind. Like, it might be played in
So-
Scram.
I
It's horrible against Rhinos.
Yeah.
It's not that good against the control decks at this point, because it's just going to get with up the beanstalk. People are playing more Furies,
Mhm.
and it just gets completely
Just eaten
outvalued.
alive. He's outclassed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually.
It is extremely.
I had a suggestion for this,
dangerous.
and put a pin in it for later eventually. But a what if series of games where we play we set up the formats from previous to now, or previous to previous, wherever we want in history of Modern, and just pick those decks out and match them up
Throw
against each
cards
other.
into the format or something.
No, just straight one for one. What is
I
it
want to
like
play
now
this
and
Jun
then?
deck against I want to play this specific Jun deck against like today's Rhinos or 6 months ago's
Yeah, there you go.
Callblade or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Like the Pro Tour decks. When you get those Pro Tour
Yep.
Championship decks, these are the decks you can buy. Like, I play them against each other. I think Eric had that set up where he just had a bunch of the Pro Tour decks and they rolled for who got them, and then
yeah.
played against them.
Derek had that too.
Yeah.
We did
And
that a
yeah,
little
it's
bit.
just one of those things that's fun to look at the different formats, because you can't, like, I have a bunch of early Pro Tour decks when like it was Imperial Armor with like land tax and all the shadow
Oh
creatures.
jeez.
And we're just like going, get our 2/2 shadow guy and Imperial Armor it, land tax, I'll grab all 4 lands, I got 10 cards in my hand, bash, discard to hand size.
Jesus
The old-
Christ.
I've been watching some pre-modern stuff and just like the scroll rack gush type of stuff
Oh,
going
yeah!
on. It's crazy. That bounce your
Oh.
lands to like gain more value.
I have Scroll Rack in my cube, and we had to explain, like, yes, I'm randomly showing this one card because I have one card in my hand. Well, how does that work?
Oh,
Well,
you think your curse scroll?
oh, that's
The
Curse Scroll.
Curse Scroll,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Scroll Rack is different. Yeah, Gush, Scroll Rack, yeah. Which Scroll Rack is also fantastic.
So I mean, this first place list, Yue Watanabe.
I mean,
played
he's no
this-
slouch. He's
No,
pretty good.
He's like one of the greatest players ever.
Yeah.
This is like the quintessential deck. I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't write you a more like straightforward. This is what Jun is.
Well, then look at that Zoo deck that's right below it.
Oh,
no,
the Zoo deck,
yeah, look at that Zoo deck. So you got your Step Links, you got Tarmogoyf, you got Snapcasters. So this is going to be the 5-color tribal Zoo, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Gain Geist of Saint Traft.
Geist St. Traft, yeah.
It
that guy
picked
was a
up
house.
step links instead of the
Playing the one
wild
of Steam
Nakados.
Vents, one of
Well,
something
Nakado
else,
got
one
banned.
Temple
Yeah,
Ground.
yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
slotting. That's the slot. Yeah.
Yep, it threw in Step Links. And I think it actually, when Wild Nikado got banned, that's when they put the actual blue cards in with Geist of St. Traft and Snapcaster Mage. They weren't running blue before.
Yeah.
They didn't have. They didn't have.
Oh, they didn't have those, yeah.
cards quite yet, but this took over the slot of Night of the Reliquary.
Once
Oh,
it
that's
came
right,
out.
yeah.
And I don't know the Snapcaster slots, and the Curd Apes are actually not like played a ton. Those
Yeah.
are kind
Loam
of
Lion. I forgot about Loam Lion.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the other Curd Ape. It's the white Curd Ape.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the removal package is exactly what you'd expect.
Bolt,
This
helix,
hadn't changed
path,
much,
yeah.
but they
Double
started to
clicks.
really add tribal flames at this point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Delverless Rug, which is kind of weird. Rug
Is that
Delver was a pretty popular deck at the time. You see it
Oh,
down
that's
here.
the click. Yeah, it's got E-Witness, click, Tarmogoyf.
Mm-hmm.
This deck is.
Oh, it's a vial.
It's got vials in it.
That's crazy.
If I could go back in time to 2000 whatever, if they had said we're gonna create this format that's modern, here's all the format, here's the cards. Oh, by the way, Aether Vial is banned. Like that would completely make sense to me. Like that card is just nuts.
Going back and watching videos, people were worried about it. They were like, "This, we're okay with it, but this easily could be a huge mistake."
Yeah, if you tell me this is the card that got banned, I would be like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cryptic Command. That's
This
pretty
I love
gnarly.
Cryptic
This
Command in our
list-
3 or 4 color deck.
you
Did we-
almost never
Yeah.
ever see the use of an Ether Vial like this ever again.
No.
It's only like tribal decks,
Yeah.
and to gain that mana advantage to cheat out these creature cards, you didn't see it in that manner.
You're a blue deck. You've got your Snapcasters and your clicks. The thing that made Aether Vial good isn't necessarily cheating the creatures out, but cheating them out at instant speed at the end of your turn.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, it's at the end of my turn. Let me throw my Goyf out there now. Like, I don't want to pay 2 mana to cast my Tarmogoyf on my turn. Like, that's ridiculous. I'm a blue deck.
Yeah.
But when you have like
Or
at the time it was a more expensive
Yeah.
format mana wise, you had to save on the mana advantage here to play Thirst for Knowledge, and really
yeah.
get a good
Yeah.
cryptic command out there.
Which
Or else this is pretty clunky.
I love
the
Vapor
mana
Snag.
advantage
Vapor
that
Snag
Aether
is
Vial provides
fantastic.
just insane.
yeah.
Just that incremental 1 damage is just awesome.
So that you never see this deck again.
No.
This build of it, you do see Rug Aggro, which is a Delver of Secrets deck.
Mhm.
This comes
Notable
up quite a bit
difference.
this
Yeah.
year.
V Shackles, Medallion Shackles,
Yeah,
Medallion Shackles.
I miss that card so much.
Yeah, but you can't play it anymore. There's so many dual lands. There's so many between the fast lands and I guess not the filter lands. They don't really play those, but you're running. You may very only well be running 4 islands in your entire deck between basics and steam vents. Like it just doesn't make sense to.
Yeah.
The other big one here is that last creature, Vendilion Click. With the exception of Vendilion, like we could probably run this entire deck as is, but it's not going to run the Vendilion Click anymore. It's going to run Murktide.
No.
Yeah, well, yeah. The shackles kind of fell off too. I noticed when RTR came out and Abrupt Decay showed up.
Oh yeah, definitely. Abrupt
Mhm.
Decay being able to just ice it.
Mhm.
Well, and the creature count, like even with only a handful of different lands, like what do you want to take? I want to take your Tarmogoyf. Well, your Tarmogoyf has a 5 power, and that's not going to work with my 3 islands. So I can't take the creatures that I want to take.
Mm-hmm.
Cawblade, you see this deck get called Cawblade a lot. It's like Kitchen Fangs. A lot of them.
Trying to keep it alive.
Yeah.
post
A lot of
Stoneforge.
them play Blade Splicer as well, but Restoration Angel, Snapcaster, Vendilion Click is like the premise.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
With the counter magic.
Well, you got that sword. As soon as you put the sword in there, it's already going to count as like this is our Cawblade deck
This
or
is our
whatever
Cawblade.
because it's got the sword.
Which doesn't, it's like such a bad spot for it because you have all this instant speed stuff
Yeah.
and
This is
have
basically
no
just a
way of
control
really
deck.
casting it. It is.
Yeah.
It's like a control mid-range deck.
This is I still had all my stuff when it rotated out of standard. So I just had to play it.
I sold my Jace the Mind Sculptor
I sold
so
my
I could
Jace
buy
when
the
he got
rest of
banned.
this.
Yeah.
Then we see another Jund,
It's the same thing. Yeah.
Cawblade,
Yep.
which is the exact same list. So John Finkel and Brian Kibler. So that must have been a team list.
Probably. Yeah.
And then the Rug Aggro. I don't think that was a team list. So
Mhm.
Players Championship. This is a little before RTR. Let's go back here. When did RTR drop? Just so I.
Got it in
Oh man, it's at the
order.
end of the year. Yeah. It's the
Yeah, it
last.
would be October.
September.
It's
October.
September.
Yeah.
Okay. Lincoln. So you probably knew people who went to this one.
Yeah.
Lincoln,
Grand
Nebraska
Prix Lincoln.
is as what 4 hours from it.
About
here?
4.5. Yeah.
Oh,
there's
wow.
LSV.
There's Countryside Crusher in this deck.
Yeah, Aggro Loam, Countryside Crusher.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you were talking about Life from Loam last week, I just thought Countryside Crusher. Like Countryside Crusher, like I wanted I wanted to play this deck so much. Like Countryside Crusher, I remember looking at this guy. I think I've got some Russian ones that I just picked up. Like I was like, this card is sweet, and it just never went anywhere. It was like, here's this attempt to do all these cool things, and it just doesn't do anything. I want it to do something fun, and it just doesn't.
Absolutely, one of my favorite memes from like the early days of playing Magic, when I barely knew what was going on, was a Countryside Crusher thing where people would just joke about, oh, I'm gonna play Countryside Crusher with 50 some odd lands, and just fling them at somebody.
We had a guy. What was that land? The Tomb of Yarami from Saviors, where it was like if you discard your hand and pay 5 swamps and discard it,
you sacrifice like all your permanents or something.
So Adam built this deck, and it was 4 tombs and like basics, and that was it. He just like, sometimes he got there, sometimes he didn't. So it was like the same thing with Countryside Crusher. Yeah. I just wanted to be like, you're gonna, if it does its thing, it does it awesome.
Yeah.
But it was so hard to accomplish. And like, what's it run? 28 lands? Like, yeah.
Wow.
Austin always played this deck.
Yeah.
When he first came in.
Yep.
I always thought that was funny. Everybody gave him so much shit for playing this deck, but it won the first Grand Prix. Like, well, yeah. It does.
Seismic Assault, because you got all these lands, Seismic Assault is awesome. And then it's got your lives, right? Life in the Loam to bring everything back and then pitch it again and then bring it back. Oh, and then we got you kept a card in your hand? Sweet. Let's go ahead and pitch one of these lands to Ravenscrime you, because Retrace is fair.
And then Life from the Loam them all back and do it all over again.
I want to drop down to a deck that like pretty much this build never saw play again, but the lands are definitely seen play, and then the blue shell of this is seen play.
Blue.
And this was played by LSV, so he got third/4th in the first Grand Prix.
Yeah, because how do you deal with all these little aggro decks? Like, how do you deal with all these zoo creatures and Tarmogoyfs and all the
Elish
You play Elish Norn. Anything that lives through Elish Norn is just too small to care about.
If you go back and watch the Magic show around this time, LSV is talking about like what would the control deck look like, and he keeps this under wraps. Like until he reveals this bad boy.
The pros know what's up.
And they're talking about like a mystical teachings build, and he does drop like gifts. Like obviously, gifts is like might be the cornerstone of this deck, and it really is. That gets him all access to everything he needs, and the Unburial Rights package,
which gifts, Unburial Rights, and then your payoff. Like that's just such a super cool. Super cool package to run in the deck.
It runs Iona.
I played this.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
I played this deck at a states tournament.
Yeah.
And I was playing. I think I had like one loss, and I was playing the last round, first Swiss to top 8, and my opponent was playing Burn, and I could like untap. I had so much mana I could untap, and then or cast my Gifts Ungiving Unburial Rights Iona, and my opponent goes I forget exactly how it played out, but pretty much my opponent attacks with Goblin Guide, and I went, as long as this is in Iona on the top of my deck, I'll win this game. And it was Iona, and then I lost and didn't make top 8 because of it. Because like I'm thinking of the sequencing, I'm like, guess I'm an instant, so I could have done it in my upkeep before I drew. I don't know what exactly happened there, but
Gifts Ungiven, it's the fixed version of Fact or Fiction.
This deck has a really big spot in my heart because one of my friends who no longer plays, he loved this deck. He got this whole deck altered, and he used to play with it. I have some of those cards to this day. But nice. I mean, you still see Tron now.
Oh yeah, Tron is going to be a thing until they ban Urza's Tower.
But Tron didn't get played until Cloudpost left, and this is like one of the first Tron decks that actually placed.
Oh that makes sense.
I can't remember last episode, but this might be the first one that really does.
I didn't really see one. I mean, there was like the Cloudpost decks, but that was Cloudpost, not Tron.
Yes, yeah.
I think it's funny that there's one Wormcoil engine in the sideboard there.
That's for
future.
Burn.
Yeah,
of
course.
This little hot mama.
She sees play now in Reanimator.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Malira Pod.
So
Birthing Pod wasn't banned right away, right?
No,
they let us have it for a couple of years.
Years. Yeah.
It's here.
I can't. Can we name names? Can I drop names on here?
Do first names.
Josh. I don't know if you know Josh or not. Josh was an Iowa City guy. Anyway, I can't think of Birthing Pod without thinking about Josh. It's so funny.
Specific instance or story?
It's just him. Like, that was his deck of choice. Like, there was a guy named Adam that his deck of choice is Cruel Ultimatum. And there's a guy, like...
Oh, yeah.
It's just,
I know that.
Yeah.
I know that guy.
Yeah, you know him. Well, Adam's still around.
Yeah.
But Josh is in California now. And so, like, I always... Like, because when I was running Battlezone, we would have people from... Like, when we were running the larger events, people from Iowa City, people from Waterloo, sometimes Des Moines, Davenport, like, everybody would come up. So I knew a lot of the grinders that were the Iowa City crew that, you know, Lewis and Josh and some of these other guys, and Andy was with those guys. And so, yeah, they... Like, I was having a family and running a business instead of touring with these guys.
Yeah, right.
They'll come visit once in a while when they need to grind their games, right?
Well,
so
you said something
best.
a couple weeks ago about, what was it? Was it your first one or your second one where you said that, you know, you like to have the collection so everybody can play, and I'm the guy that has the collection. When we did Charlie's tribute tournament,
yeah.
I loaned out 4 decks, and then I borrowed from Josh 2 other decks, and like, yeah, it's just and I'm not as well versed on Modern as I used to be. Modern Horizons has made it a little more difficult. But yeah, in the early days of Modern, like, I had all the stuff because when I was running my shop, I was playing whatever was big in Standard, and then anything that carried over into Modern, I had. Yeah. So it just made sense.
Yeah.
And so when, you know, Modern comes out, like, I look at all this and I'm like, yeah, I've got all this stuff. I can build any of these Modern decks because I already have all the stuff. But then Modern Horizons comes out and we have Ragavans and we have Urza Sagas and we have Ren and Sixes and all these different cards that are, you know, premiums that I got to decide, well, I can't drop $400 on 6 cards. Like, I got to pick one. Like, which direction am I going to go? Which tournament or which deck am I going to play with? And so it ended up working out in the long run because I could get the cards that I wanted to make the decks work, but it was harder to loan things out.
And I mean, that's, I guess, something of pressure that I feel like every Modern player kind of felt when Horizons first dropped, where it was like, okay, up until now, it's been just, okay, I need these cards for this set, from this set, because it's good for my deck, you know?
Yeah.
Like a couple cards here or there. I think I mentioned this previously before on one of our episodes, but it's just like that was the first set where it's like, man, I need almost every single one of these cards because they're all legal and they're all better than all.
And
the cards
as a Jund player, I need Ren and Sixes.
Yep.
I need Ragavans.
Yep.
At the time, I need Endurances. I need Urza Sagas weren't in Jund at the beginning. Urza Sagas, but I got my Urza Sagas for Legacy, son. But yeah, like, I remember being so frustrated that, like, I can't drop $100 a piece on Ragavans right now. So I was essentially priced out of the format.
Yep. And
until they did the reprint and I got a little bit of money from selling some other stuff, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get my Ragavans because then I have them. And I have them forever.
Oh, I agree. I haven't picked up mine until they reprinted them either.
Yeah. And then same thing with the Ren and Sixes. And Ren and Sixes I actually got 2 of because I was going to play them in Legacy, and then they got banned in Legacy. I'm like, screw this.
Yeah.
But, you know, Wasteland and Ren and Six and Wasteland, I understand.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
But yeah, so that's, like, Modern Horizons was... I think it's nice that they can support the format, and Wizards is supporting the format, and they want to print those powerful cards without running them through Standard. And I'm okay with that. And I am of the opinion that I would rather see them print aggressive, angry, powerful cards and ban them than print, like, hot garbage that nobody's going to play with. Because a lot of the bulk from Modern Horizons 1 was like, we're going to fix Brainstorm, and we're going to fix Inquisition and Thoughtseize, or whatever it was, Cabal Therapy. Like, we're going to print all these, like, and what was that, Lion, the Diamond Eye Lion or something like that? Yeah. Like, there's just all these stupid cards that they tried to, like, we're going to print a version of this that isn't going to work the way that the original one does, so it's not going to be as good. Like, stop it. Just print good cards, like Hogak, and ban them.
I don't know if a lot of people agree with that statement, but
I played Hogak for that 2 months that I could.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, that's the thing. Like, I would rather than print new cards and do it that way, and then bring stuff in. Like, and I get it that they can't bring back the reserve list stuff. I 100% support the reserve list. Like, we don't need that stuff. That's a whole different format. Legacy is its own thing. The people that love Legacy love it, and and then modern is its own thing. Like you don't have to cater to both formats.
Yeah, going back to the list.
Sorry, go.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine.
I'm
Yeah.
going.
No,
well, I
absolutely.
gotta leave in about an hour, so I gotta. I can't rant so too long.
Okay, Melira Pod. We saw this last week, but this is where it really starts to show its shell.
Is this the combo pod where you get?
It's the infect with kitchen finks or murderous red cap.
That's
So
right,
you're
and then
getting-
you sack it to the
Sack it to
dude, right? You
Viscera
sack
Seer.
it to the Viscera Seer.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, this one is a lower mana cost. It's got a decent stain power.
I'm really happy to see this like super early on in Modern's history, because this eventually evolved into what I would start playing, which is Devoted Druid, because it has
That's
the Kitchen
the-
Finks
the,
combo and Viscera Seer.
What's the white one?
Vizier Remedies.
Vizier Remedies. Yeah,
Yes.
that's Vizier
Yeah.
Remedies is the first time that I built this iteration.
Yeah.
Because I never enjoyed Birthing Pod. It made for too strategic is the wrong word, but that's kind of what it is. Like Birthing Pod, the thing that made Birthing Pod good was that it was able to incrementally take your creatures up,
Mhm.
and you had to stack the cards and do the right order, and it was almost clinical, and I'm not that kind of player.
I didn't think it was it was like
I mean,
the best players with the Melira Pod deck were like the scariest. I love like my friend Alex. I'm sure you know him if I
I
drop
think
the
I
last
know
name.
Alex. Yeah,
But
that's
when
fine.
he played it, those were some of my favorite matches because he was very experienced with the deck. He
Yeah.
knew what he was doing, and so he knew how to gain every little tiny margin he can out of that deck,
Yeah.
and
Well,
play
and-
up against it. It was a lot of fun.
And I never had the success with it. Not because by no means did I think the deck was bad. Like I support 100% the banning of pod, but I was never good with it. It was not, but that's the play style. I'm not good with those type of decks.
Mhm.
I did though when they printed Collected Company years later and they did like the Kiki Chord kind of stuff.
That's coming up
Yeah,
here.
like that stuff was a blast because pod, I don't know. Pod didn't do it for me.
I never liked those Naya Kiki Chord lists.
Yeah.
I always preferred this build.
I just
Can't
wanted to
even really
play
explain
creatures
why, but-
and kill you with them. I didn't want to be like dinking around with, well, we're going to turn this guy into that guy, and then this guy's going to come back, and then we're going to get our witness, and we're going to do this. And, nope. Thoughtseize, discard, play Blood Red Elf, attack.
Rip your best card.
Everybody's
Yeah,
got,
hit you,
everybody's
hit
got a
you.
style.
Yeah.
This is you already saw Affinity. This is where I remember it kind of settling. With
This is what it was
the
for
Edge
years.
Champions.
Yeah.
the 2-3 Arcbound Ravengers.
That's
Yeah.
wrong. That's
Signal
wrong.
Pest, Vault Scourge stuck around for years and years.
So the I think the commonplace of it was the 4 Steel Overseers. A lot of times the Edge Champion would go in and out of the board.
Mhm.
Like sometimes you wouldn't want it, but there was a blue guy, Master
Of
of
Ethereum.
Ethereum.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Master of Ethereum
That's-
would always
that's
be.
what I was
I
wondering.
thought
was
they
like,
were
where is
playing
he?
this in this list, but yeah, he's in main.
Some
deck
of the
most
early
time.
builds of this, and maybe that was just in standard, but they would play Broodstar. Like Broodstar
yeah.
was, I think that was more standard. I don't think
we
Broodstar
see
ever
any
made
of
it to
that in
modern.
here. Mhm.
Yeah, but the red, like you had dispatch too. So like people are like, do you play red? Do you play white? Do you play blue? But then you've got Mox Opal. Well, eventually you had Mox Opals. You don't yet, but
No, you do.
Oh, you do.
No,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
do.
yeah.
It was
So
in
you got
initial
Mox
release.
Opal, and you've got your Springleaf Drum, so you can justify playing like the 3 colors because you've got your Steel Shaper's Gift. I forgot about that.
That's an odd one, but it was played
It's supposed to
specifically
be-
to get cranial.
Yeah,
plating.
it's
it's
supposed-
your
yeah,
5th and 6th
um,
copy.
But you probably want Thoughtcast instead. Like Thoughtcast makes a lot more sense. I don't like.
They did end up playing 4
Yeah.
copies of Thoughtcast. And
Yeah.
a lot
Like
of
this, I think this is probably just an early version of it.
Mhm.
But the Springleaf Drums and the Moxel was
The-
definitely allowed it to just be like a 5-color deck.
There's
The
not any
creature
blue in
base
this.
specifically is like
Yeah.
the quintessential deck. Some of the and then these random artifacts, except a Torpor Orb in the main.
Well,
deck.
I'm guessing
Whatever.
Torpor was probably because Pod was such a big deal, and you wanted to
Mhm.
stop your ETB effects.
Mhm.
Yes.
Stop Catching Finks and Murderous Red Cap.
Yep.
This blows me away.
Fairies even.
Fairies is
Yeah.
5th in
Spell
this
Setter
tournament.
Sprite, be
Yeah.
quick.
Spellsetter Sprite was
We'll hit
stupid.
Affinity a
Like-
few more times here. but-
Yeah, fairies. So fairies did transition over pretty good. I was not supportive of Bitter Blossom being banned at the beginning. Like I thought that was just silly.
It was the fear of the extended
But
deck.
it was like it was such a dominant deck in standard that it just was
Is
terrifying.
it even legal now in Modern?
Bitter
Yes.
Blossom? Yeah.
I remember the
That's how good
tournament
it is.
right after it came out.
God, that sucks. I really like that card too.
I was telling someone about that tournament today.
I remember because when they unbanned it, I off two of my foil ones. Because
Oh,
people
yeah.
were like, "Oh yeah, let's go!" And I'm like, "Sweet."
Yeah.
Get rid of them.
Oh, that's
Medallion
what you
Shackles
gained.
in this
I
list
offed
too.
two of my. Yeah, I've got my one,
Vindalkin.
but I
So-
offed my extra.
This is very similar to that Callblade list. It's just mono blue, and
Yeah.
it's playing very almost slot for slot the same card, except for like the white cards are getting slot out for
The-
other fairies.
the
Well,
mono-
Scion of Una was sick, and then you had the Mistbind Click.
Mistbind Click.
Mistbind
was
Click
sweet.
was
That
legit.
sweet.
Yeah,
That just recently
She
spiked
would
up in
turn
price again
you
too because
off,
of the Morrowind
like-
announcement.
yeah.
Sure, I don't think that card's coming back.
No.
It
No.
never. I mean,
The
you see
champion
these
mechanic was
one-up
cool,
decks,
but they're not like the champion mechanic was so clunky.
Two more Jund decks.
Yep, they're all gonna be the same.
Tallies for yep. Yes, you were very.
Oh,
right.
that one's got Olivia in it.
Yeah.
I love
Easily.
Olivia Valdrain.
She did
she's-
some damage.
She's my
yeah.
girl. I love her.
And then a mono red affinity list. So
Galvanic Blast. That one's running Shrapnel Blast. Yeah, it's Shrapnel Blast. So in the earlier versions, before Galvanic Blast got printed, we just run Shrapnel Blast.
Mhm.
But then when Galv Blast came out, we're like, why are we running Shrapnel Blast anymore? Like, it doesn't make sense to run. I mean, it does. Shrapnel Blast does one more damage, but it's also one less mana, and you don't lose an artifact.
Yeah.
I don't know where this is in the world.
Turin is in France or Germany. It's somewhere in Europe.
1,060 players.
Yeah, Europe
Holy
is
crap.
insane because everything in Europe is connected by train.
Right.
So it's so easy to get to. So it's not like where we have to like, I want to go to Atlanta for a tournament. I got to book a flight. I got to book a hotel or whatever. But if you're going to, in Europe, if you live in Germany and you want to go to France, you just hop on a train for 6 hours or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
And hop back.
Europe is really insane. For doing stuff.
I was looking at I sort through Grand Prix every
Yeah.
episode, and in one of the conditions that you can look at is like how many players were in it, and I sorted to that and looked at all the.
Most U.S. Grand Prix, I mean, peaked at like 800. There was a couple of them that hit over a grand, but
There's a good number.
Are there?
over
Okay.
grand. Yeah.
but yeah, there.
You got the two Vegas ones that.
Oh
blow
yeah, the
on
Vegas
water,
ones are all
too.
just like 3,000 people or 4,000 people.
So we got Rug Delver here.
Yeah, so Rug Delver eventually became, well, they call it Rug Delver. It's Canadian Threshold.
And Garrick the
Well,
Relentless.
Well, in Legacy,
In
when
Legacy.
we have Nimble Mongoose in
Yeah, Nimble Mongoose is
but-
about as good in Modern as it is in Legacy.
yeah, it had its
Um,
time.
One of Electrolyze. There's the first showing of
Yeah, Electrolyze is so sweet because
pretty
it's
sweet card.
it's like Forked Bolt, but better, which is kind of cool.
It was very critical back with like the pod decks.
Yeah.
It was a straight up 3-for-1 in a lot of cases.
Mm.
Yeah, there's a few differences from the other lists that we saw, like the Phyrexian Metamorph, which it doesn't make much sense. They're trying to gain more value with the Garrick, and not rely on the Shackles as much. But other than that, it is like the Delver list.
Right. It's kind of mid-rangey.
I could never understand playing Delver in Modern. It
I
just
didn't
doesn't.
either.
It doesn't make sense to me. Like, but maybe that's because I've been playing Legacy for so long that like Delver just makes sense in that format. Whereas, like, you don't have a good way to balance it out. How am I going to?
You don't like to roll the dice, Foster. You don't like the game.
I do like to turn my Tarmogoyf sideways. Like I like to know what I've got for power and dress down is stupid.
Rest Town. Oh my goodness.
Mono white martyr.
Martyr.
Yep.
I love this deck.
This is a tier 2.5 deck for its entire existence.
Entire existence.
It stayed pretty consistent.
We like to call it
It did.
Soul Sisters.
Yep.
Yes.
Soul
Hey, Soul
Sisters.
Sisters.
The original Ranger of Eos.
Yep. Yeah, because that dude got any card you wanted. I'm going to play this Ranger of Eos, so I'm going to go get 2 of everything. Except
in
Squadron
this one.
Hawk. That was great, though, because you dropped the Squadron Hawk, not because you wanted the extra Hawks, because you needed the 3 extra cards in your hand for the Martyr.
Yeah. Yep. Crack the Martyr. Gain a bunch of life.
Get a little extra. Yeah, this deck existed. That's
It's-
about all I got
that's the
for that
thing.
one.
Oh, the Proclamation of Rebirth. That card was so dumb.
This is the first appearance of
Gifts.
Gifts Ungiven in a Storm deck.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you didn't really see this until the creature base of like this cost 1x less.
Yeah.
But they are playing it here for almost value. And you got Gataxian Pro.
Oh yeah, there's not
still
already
legal.
any. Okay, Goblin Electromancer didn't come out yet.
Didn't
right?
exist. He was in
Correct.
RTR.
RTR. Okay.
Yep.
Pass in Flames was a huge deal for this deck.
Oh, yeah. Pass and Flames blew this deck out of the water. Wasn't that the Star City Circuit had this deck all over the place?
Oh, I'm sure.
It was insane.
And this Pass in Flames got Seething Song banned because they didn't want to just outright ban Pass in Flames.
Yeah.
It was back when they were more like they'd go, oh, let's ban this card instead
Did
of
we-
the actual card.
Did they ban Rite of Flames at the beginning?
Yes, right away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rite of Flames never came into
Yeah.
format.
No, I'm sorry. It was in the format. It was on the Pro Tour and then got banned.
Oh, it
because
got
of the
banned
Pro
right
Tour.
away. Okay,
Yes.
so it was not on the initial banned list, but it got banned right away. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was in a
And it makes sense that they banned Seething
Song.
Song after this one.
Yeah.
Remand, Serum Visions, Lightning Bolt, Manamorphose. This is like the deck other than the
Yeah.
gifts mixes it up and the passive.
Do we even have Desperate Ritual anymore? I thought they banned that one too.
Desperate?
No, we still have it.
Desperate Ritual.
Yeah,
On the
we
other
still
side.
have it.
Yeah, right there. Sorry. I didn't list off every single
Okay.
card. Pyretic Ritual.
Oh, I thought some of those were banned too.
and
No,
then
those are just the 2 mana
now
rituals.
now we're seeing Twin.
Oh yeah, Twin.
So like this is our second Grand Prix in the Players Championship after like Ponder, Preordained banning, and this we finally see Twin.
I'm the guy that
Which is
He's fine
running.
with
This
Twin
is
being
weird.
Spliced in 2 Thought Seizes and 3 Inquisitions.
Yeah, and it's
yeah, but
running
you got
Faithless
duels. Like
Looting.
as soon as you get the dual lands and stuff to back it up, and you got Cascade Bluffs, like you can cast anything.
It is-
Electrostatic.
It is
bolts.
like you're
Okay,
right, like
that's
on
an
the
interesting-
mana base, but seeing this combination of cards, I
Yeah.
played a Grixis build years later when Cons came out, but I didn't ever really see a version of this in the early
No,
days.
you're mostly gonna see more just the blue red. Like it's not gonna play the black because you're gonna want the counter spells. You're gonna want because like this one can't afford to run Cryptic Command, whereas
Correct,
most of the time in these Kiki decks, you're in the Splinter Twin decks.
No Snapcaster Mage, which is pretty critical.
I'm 100% on board with Splinter Twin staying banned.
Well, get off my podcast.
And I know that's the unpopular opinion. And I know more people that want it to come back than people that don't. Do I think it'd be fine in the format? Probably. But do we need it in the format? Like, what would it help? What benefit would the format have by adding Splinter Twin back into it? We get another blue-red deck.
Combo based blue red deck.
Yeah.
We lost Storm.
Do we have any combo based decks in Modern right now?
Combo-based decks right now?
No, Prime Time. Sorry.
I mean, Primeval
Well,
Tides. are pretty-
okay, so
yeah.
Prime
Pretty
Time.
close.
What's Deathright Shaman do against Prime Time, by the way?
Technically, isn't Rhinos kind of a combo deck? Like, the cards are in... I cast a
I would
spell
almost say
and
it's
then
a mid-range deck.
It is, yeah,
It's like
it's
an
not a
unfair
really a combo
mid-range
deck.
deck. Yeah.
You got Scam. Scam's a combo deck. Because you...
Yeah, I suppose.
Ish.
It's definitely has this mid range aspect too. Like you get the grief.
I
done
mean,
on
Black
turn
Red
one.
Evoke. They don't call it Scam. They call it Black
Oh.
Red Evoke.
As far as I'm concerned, it's the scam.
I know. I don't know. Twin might be fine. But I don't know if I care. I think
I haven't talked to Moose about this going back to throwing decks in the format and play testing against different things. I want to ask Moose if I can just like not win packs or whatever, just go into FNM with Splinter Twin.
you just want to play Splinter Twin. I'm going to
I
concede
play-
to all of my opponents.
Yep.
But I just want
At
to
the
play
end
the
of the
game to
day,
see how it goes.
I concede, but
Yeah.
just to throw it in there and make it live games instead of like half-ass playtesting over here every
Yeah.
so often is like, no, let's actually play this game. And
I mean, I can play with you if you want sometime. I got like 8 modern decks built.
See, this is what I'm talking
From
about.
a year.
Experimental modern.
From
we can have a
we
modern
tested
lab.
because I built a bunch of decks for Charlie's tournament, so I've got like they're relatively recent within the
Yeah.
last couple of months.
Another Jun, another Rug Delver, Exarch again.
Is that John still running Kitchen Finks? Eventually, they get rid of Kitchen Finks.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I actually don't know when they start phasing him out. No, it's still played.
We got
The
Fulminator Mage
Fulminator
though.
Mage.
Fulminator.
That guy stuck around for a little while, and then after about a year, we realized he was way better than the sideboard.
A year? A year? No, Foster. It was way too long.
Put him in the sideboard. Put him in the
The
sideboard.
blue-red
Who's got
combo.
me my,
Storm again.
signed
This one's
ones?
got Peer Through the Depths, so it's splicing into arcanes and stuff, I
Alright,
suppose.
where's this one? it's playing 4 Pass and Flames. So you see a lot of overkill in these decks with 4 Pass and Flames, 3 Maliras in the main deck, 3 Visiraseers, which all that stuff gets trimmed down.
They just need to give me Living Wish. Just let me have Living Wish.
All right, let's close out of that guy. That's about all she wrote for that one.
Wishes.
Oh, that's the same one. Yokohama. So we got some Japanese players. This is where the shit gets real.
Yeah.
Black. Okay, I say that, and then it's tokens.
Black white tokens.
Again, never saw
Ranger.
like any play. They made one modern like of that challenger deck, and it was black white tokens. Sold horribly.
Yep.
And then they like stayed away from that for years. They made some for Pioneer, but those sold, I think, very well. And at the end of like standard lives, that turned into pretty much Pioneer decks.
I will say a very relevant
It was
card.
a big mistake with this deck.
Very relevant card in this deck, Lingering Souls.
Yeah.
That card definitely saw its limelight quite a bit later, but I don't see.
There were people that started splashing white and Jund for Lingering Souls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, turned it into Abzan.
Oh yes, I actually Pro Tour Ravnica. There was a guy I watched coverage of him playing Abs
because you could cascade into it.
Doran.
Oh yeah.
Because you had Deathrite Shaman into Doran at the time.
Turn 1 Deathrite Shaman, turn 2 Doran the Siege Tower.
Mm-hmm.
And then your Deathrite Shaman's attacking for 2 instead of just 1. Yeah.
Cute. Going back mono blue fairies again. It doesn't show up much
I think
later.
they could have done, like, it would have been so easy to add black into the fairy deck, and you'd get a lot more gas out of it, because you could use, I know you don't get Bitter Blossom, but you get a lot of those other, like, not rebels, what are they called? Rogues. You get a lot more of those rogue ones with, like, the discard ones, and the ones that give the +1/+1 counters when they connect.
I mean,
are you talking today, or?
No, like this, in this.
Even back then, you're gonna get Thoughtseize, right? Like,
yeah,
that just seems really good.
Yeah,
with black.
But there's like Una's Prowler or something like that. It's like it's got like a mechanic where if you connect with a fairy or a rogue, you can play it for cheaper. And yeah, it's like there's one that you can like, it's a 4/4 3/3 or something for, it's like 2 if you hit somebody with a rogue, and then it comes into play and you get to like exile cards from their deck. Yeah, I think there was a lot of incremental, but these make more sense because I don't know, the blue, these ones had a lot more flash. You've got your Mistbind Clicks and your Scions, and it was more of like your Lord decks rather than, and then obviously Shackles. Like if you play Shackles, if you want to play your blue black decks, you're gonna run Glendalendra something or other, whatever the
Archmage.
land. No, the land. It's not Glendalendra's though, but it's because Lorwyn had those lands that they come into play tapped unless you reveal a creature type.
No. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
The mono white one was Kithkin.
River of Tears, all that kind of stuff.
No, that was different. River of Tears was.
Auntie's Hollow,
but they played.
Auntie's Hollow.
Yeah, I know, but
River of Tears.
Yeah.
River of Tears would have been in the mana base, but then you're taken away from your shackles because you don't have the islands anymore.
Yeah.
So this is the Grand Prix that Pod really fucking shined for in the top 8. Going back, hitting the 3rd place one.
This one, there's a Village Bellringer.
Village Bellringer was a house.
This is Kiki. This is
Kiki Court.
This is Kiki Court.
Oh, okay.
And then, like I said, Overkill. 4 Kiki Jikis in the main deck. Yep. The restos can stay. Those are pretty good still in the deck. But like I was saying, there's just overkill on some of these slots, and people chip down on those a lot later. Other than this, the deck stayed pretty consistent after that. Like there's like maybe 4 slots that I can
maybe the
say
mana
change.
The mana advantage stuff changed. And
get
some better searching for creatures. And
John still at stock list.
Yep,
has a sword in it for some odd reason.
Because you needed to deal with the red and white creatures.
Here's our first Master of Ethereum.
Yeah, there we go.
4 Springleaf Drum. This one,
I like 4 Springleaf Drum. I like the welding jars, but they don't. It took a while for welding jars to get added in.
Main board especially.
Nobody appreciated it, so they should. Another Kiki Cord.
Kiki Cord.
4 of Kiki in that one as well.
This one is another Kiki list with Malira in it, so it's mixing the two, which is just wrong.
Oh, there's a Pontiff main board in that one.
Yeah, because you want to give all your opponents 1/-1/1 or your creatures.
And then you and then you
'Cause
could
can
haunt
cord
it.
for it.
You can do
Yeah.
-2/-2 with it
Yeah.
by sacking
By
it and
haunting
then
it.
sacking. Another Malira Kiki-Jiki list. They pretty much split these lists into the two categories and
That one's playing Blasting Station. Oh, they're both playing Blasting Station.
yeah, you saw that as like a
One or
fifth
two off.
combo piece in some situations.
Just combo toolbox.
I just want to do whatever I can. Yeah, they call it Angel Pod, but it's really key.
It
It's
turns
really,
into creature
it's
toolbox.
like toolbox.
Generalized.
Mhm.
That's what they'd be
Or
now.
type,
It's like
yeah.
a toolbox or a Celestia toolbox.
Some value creatures that make up for the mana dorks, things like that.
Yep.
I never saw people have like big success with the Angel pod like the Nihilist. It was
No.
always the Malira pod that I saw people succeeding at. This is a different website for Grand Prix Columbus. Jun. So here's our Jun.
Rakdos Augermage.
Augermage.
Yeah, that guy was something else.
That's
He was-
about it.
So when he came out, I remember because it was one of the invitational cards. They had like not done invitational
that's
cards for a
hilarious.
while, and then they were like, "We're gonna put out this Rakdos Augermage," and Watsy like made a huge deal out of it. And it's like, what? This card doesn't do anything.
I couldn't even really figure it out.
He's a 3/2 first striker, which is kind of cool,
Yep.
except that he's the wrong colors for first strike. But you can activate him, and I think you discard a card, or you choose
Your opponent
your
chooses
opponent chooses
a card
for you to discard, and
then
then you discard
choose
a
one.
card that they get to choose, and then you get a reach around or something.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
That's exactly how it works.
Oh, and you both choose a card. for each
Yeah,
other,
you choose a
both
card from
discard
each
it.
other and then
You get a
discard
reach-
it.
You get a
Which-
reach
Yeah,
around.
that card, I think
It
it never
didn't-
saw play
it didn't
because
last.
people couldn't figure it out. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, I mean, unless you're looking at it from a strictly, I'm a 3/2 first striker for 3 that can get hit off the Bloodbraid Elf. Like,
John.
maybe.
Naya Pod here. Yep, just the straight Naya Pod Kiki-Jiki list.
Same list, yeah.
Rug Tempo, which is
That's
Delver
going to be
list.
your Delver
Delver.
stuff, yeah.
Delver's Secrets. That didn't show up. Did that show up in our previous list we saw? Delver?
Yeah, we saw in some
There was,
other.
well, yeah, Delver showed
they
up,
were
but
lower on
yeah.
on the totem pole, but yeah,
This one looks like a zoo kind of list.
it's
Step list.
it's
Also-
America Tempo,
Oh, America Tempo. Okay.
which
that
the
makes
America
sense.
control list kind of
Yeah. Pillar of Flame?
Out of.
I haven't seen that card for a long time.
Somebody stole one of mine at a tournament.
Do you need another one? I got a bunch of them.
No, I
You've replaced it.
think I sold one.
I've moved on. I'm over it.
Affinity.
Yeah.
I think
Another
this is
Delver.
the America Delver list.
I'm pretty sure I got a foil set of Pillar of Flames.
Eldrazi green. What the hell is
It's
this?
like, it's not Tron, but it's like the mono. Oh, it is Tron.
Oh, it is
it's,
straight
it's
Tron.
mono green
It's
Eldrazi.
mono green Tron. Or
Yeah.
no, green red Tron. It's got 3 Pyroclasms in the main board.
Is this one running Carplusan Forests?
I bet it is.
Nope, it's not.
No.
Ayabugan Forest.
Oh wait, I'm thinking of
There's no
Grove of
red.
the Burn Willows.
No.
Carplusian Forest.
The reason it
Ah.
ran the Carplusan Forest came later when it was the Eldrazi that was colorless Eldrazi because
Yes.
you had to cast the
You had to pay
colorless
colorless,
mana,
yep.
and Carplusan Forest was a way to fix your mana, but
I
plus
have
also have the color.
still legal in this one.
all of these OG Trons play Grove.
Yeah.
though, and that's what I thought we were talking
This
about.
is the
'Cause
first
it's running
time
Punishing
we see
Fire, right?
Ayabugan
Or
in
did they
Modern.
not? Are they not running Punishing Fire anymore?
I think so. Oh no.
Punishing Fire got banned.
Why are
Yes.
they still running Groves then if Punishing Fire got banned?
Because
the
they
green red
needed
source.
the red sources and the green red source, and giving your opponent life in a Tron deck does not matter.
Oh, okay.
You're carning them out.
So I'd rather. Okay, so I'd rather give you the life than lose the life on a shot.
This is
Because
the
you're
first-
running Pyroclasm and Sylvan Scrying at the time.
Okay.
And so that and your artifacts.
Yep.
This is a really relevant Tron list because first time we see Karn Liberated, first time we see Ayabugan, first time we see Sylvan Scrying,
Yes.
Explorer, and Ancient Stirrings. all in
Ancient
the
Stirrings.
deck.
Which almost got banned at one point.
Yeah.
I know, we talked about the Ancient Stirrings. There was a lot of talk about getting Ancient Stirrings banned, and then Mox Opal got banned instead. What was the card last week you guys were talking about? The hybrid red-green card. Fire Spout.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought I was
And
expecting
you were
it to
like,
be
I don't
that.
know what this card does. And I'm just sitting here, I'm like, it's hybrid. One blue, one... And I just like rattle off exactly what it was.
Another the America Delver list.
Yeah.
Shows you how much I know about
That's
early
okay.
modern.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, I played it in standard.
Okay,
too.
here we go.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a sweet card. Like I just thought
October of the year.
you just don't see it.
This is the Pro
Oh, this is eggs, where they called it Sunny Side Up.
Yep.
This Pro Tour would have been won by Jun.
Was
Except
Sivka?
eggs.
Yeah, Sivka. I watched the playthrough just recently, and Sivka in the finals was like, he turn 2 or turn 3, he tries to go off, and then he's just like, oh, I kind of bricked and passes the turn, and still pulled it out. So
I had this deck built
impressive.
before this tournament.
I have this deck built, and it is so much fun, but you can't play it like it's not. What they banned Second Sunrise, right?
Yes, and there's a 6-mana version of that card that people tried to play and never.
That's too
worked
slow.
out.
That doesn't make sense. Yeah.
This is like one of the first decks where they're like, "Yep, we're just gonna hit the actual card and take care of it.
We're gonna ban the real card instead of. But it's not like it was a new card that they just printed. Like it wasn't Modern Horizons.
Let me look at something because M13. M13 came out that year, so it gave the redundant copies with Faith's Reward.
That's right.
So it made it way more.
That's
consistent.
why it was more consistent.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Reshape. We see some of these artifact-based combo decks later on, like with KCI.
KCI does a
and
lot
even
of the same mechanics.
Grinding Station to an
Lotus
extent.
Bloom, especially picks up through ad nauseum, continues through a lot of combo decks.
No,
Conjurer's Bobble's interesting. And I don't know if I've seen a lot of that, but like that came back around KCI and stuff, right?
Conjurer's
yeah.
Bobble did, yeah.
Yeah, KCI.
But and it's
especially.
been dead. Like people played this card, but never played Mishra's Bobble back then.
Does Elspor Flask ever show up again too?
I don't think so.
It does. No, never mind. No, that's something else.
It's just an ETB draw a card with artifact tacked on it. The sacrifice
so
ability
it's just
doesn't do
valuable
anything.
artifact.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, there's another one that's a 2-drop. That's the when it comes into play and leaves play, you draw a card. The Mycosynth, whatever it is, Mycosynth Wellspring.
And that's
It's
just
just better.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just better.
So here we go. UA with Jun.
Death
We
Right
got
Shaman.
Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah. So
and Abrupt Decay.
Yep. So this is right after Return to Ravnica, and this is when I went heavy in it. Like this is when I was actively playing in the modern stuff. I had all of this stuff. I was just rocking it as best as I could.
What's Victim?
Thanks for stopping in, Cody. I don't know when you message, but thanks for watching, man.
You had to go to work.
Yeah, you had to go to work.
Lame. Watch it work. It's on YouTube. We did do Victim of Night. Victim of Night didn't stay in very long. That went back to Go for the Throat.
Oh,
and
sure. Okay.
Eventually,
A
well, it
little bit of
eventually
Ultimate
becomes
Price.
Assassin's Trophy, but that's years from now.
Well, this it's interesting. They're not playing Terminate there.
We don't have Terminate yet.
Is it? Oh, okay.
It's in.
No, wait. Yeah, there was.
Terminate
I watched
was in
people play
Shards of
Terminate.
Alara.
Oh yeah, Terminate was in Shards of Alara. That's right.
Yeah.
It didn't. I don't know. Terminates are in the one I have built now.
It seemed like Terminate would just we're good there, but
Yeah.
well,
They didn't want to rely on red very much.
Yeah, it's not a very red heavy deck. It's especially when you got
do
double.
Once they cut Deathrite Shaman, it goes almost straight to rock. Just black green.
right.
A lot of people were pushing for that build.
Especially when you've got Treetop Village, because Treetop Village.
This
was
one's
the
running a
first
2 of Terminate instead, but then
Yeah.
they're a little bit heavier. Oh wow, they're spread.
This
with
guy.
Gerald's
That guy.
Messenger.
Yeah.
People and eventually went just right back to the kitchen finks.
Yeah,
This
Gerald's
was
Messenger. He was cute, but he didn't last.
When I was watching the coverage, they call them the reverse kitchen things.
Yeah.
So, just
Yeah.
I played the
hilarious.
shit out of that in standard though.
Oh
That
yeah.
guy was nuts.
Oh yeah.
What was the other one? The Gravecrawler?
Yes.
Like Gravecrawler.
Those two. That's
That guy.
That's how I.
I
built
wanted
my
I
modern
wanted somebody to
collection.
like customize my Gerald's Messengers to be I wanted a Michael Jackson jacket with his white glove.
I was thinking out like
Yeah.
that'd be sweet.
So
Scape Shift.
Scape Shift.
let me go back to this. The only banning / unbanning we had was in September. Valakut gets unbanned.
Oh yeah, so
Scape Shift
comes
is
out.
finally actually legal.
Yeah.
And
relevant. Scape Shift is relevant.
yeah, right. Like they banned Valakut, but really banned Scape Shift.
Yeah.
And you see like, I mean, you saw this list for a very, very long time. I remember battling against this exact list for years.
Oh yeah, Scape Shift was a mainstay in the format for decades. for years.
Never got any real upgrades or downgrades in cards. Telling time got pushed out.
Yeah, Telling Time got outmoded. The Bring to Light, I think, is what really, like, the last time this got a better iteration was Bring to Light.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I got a revival then.
Yeah.
And Search for Tomorrow, Secure Tribe, although those, I've seen those for years in Scapeshift decks. Like, that's just such a, even when I started playing, I remember Search for Tomorrow on turn 1, I was like, Scapeshift. Okay.
Yeah.
I know what I'm up against.
Well, some of the Titan decks, some of the Amulet Titan decks ran Search for Tomorrow.
Yep. Yeah.
Affinity, Call Blade, Infect. This is the first time Infect really places since
Rancor.
Since the last
Yes!
Pro Tour.
Rancor
I love
and
Rancor.
Groundswell. Interesting.
Well, yeah, because I put Rancor on my guy, and then you kill it, and I put the Rancor back in my hand.
Groundswell went in and out of getting played in this list, but other than that, I mean, for years, a lot of these lists didn't really change. The archetype stayed, and like you're saying, you take that one modern deck and run it through its
this
paces.
is what I'm gonna play.
And I think I said it last week, but I want to reiterate, is like when you have new cards coming in and pushing out these decks almost faster than a standard rotation, you don't get that utility out of the deck anymore. You can't go, play this deck for a year and get experience with it, and then next year you'll be able to beat the people you weren't able to beat the year before, because the whole metagame is shifted.
The progression of the human ability to like master a deck and push forward with it is not fast enough to keep up with the ever expanding content.
So that was the Pro Tour. It would have been the Jund Pro Tour, and I think maybe Bloodbraid Elf would have got banned earlier if Jund won, but Stannis, he took over with that guy, and then it was at least 3 months before Second Sunrise got banned, at least.
Well, what's funny about Bloodbraid Elf is they banned it, and it didn't really matter, because I think they banned Bloodbraid Elf and Deathray Shaman at the same time.
No,
Bloodbraid
Elf died because of.
Oh, that's right. They
I
banned
remember
Bloodbraid Elf
banned
when
Deathray.
Deathray Shaman came
playing
out.
with
They
Deathray.
banned Bloodbraid Elf, and then years later they finally banned Deathray. It wasn't years. It was relatively quickly. They banned Deathray Shaman, and then we're like, okay, you can have Bloodbraid back because it was Deathray's problem all along, but we couldn't ban Deathray because it just came out, and Bloodbraid's been here for the whole time, and blah blah blah.
I'm pretty sure Deathray got banned way later, because I thought I remember playing when Deathray came out.
It was a few months. It was at least a few months later.
Yeah.
It wasn't at the same time.
No, it wasn't. That sounds right. We got Bloodbraid and Jace back, I think, at the same time.
Yes, that is correct.
Yes. Yep. Hi.
That pops up on my Facebook memories every once in a while. All my friends want Jace, but I got my girl.
There's a video of me. I had some Jace Mind Sculptors at the time, and I'm playing like some music.
You're playing Fortunate Son. He's playing Fortunate Son, and he pulls out this box and opens it, pulls out a Jace that's got a piece of dust on it, and he goes and blows it off. The Fortunate Son's playing in the background the whole time.
I'm pretty sure my post is something along the lines of, I'm gonna brush the dust off these and get them back, or something like that. With my Bloodbraids, because I've got a foil set of original Bloodbraids.
Jeff at the store, Deppy, he was like, I remember when he posted that Jace the Mind Sculptor, but with like M13 on it or whatever, and he's just trying to build the hype for that kind of stuff.
Well, they unbanned Jace so they could sell modern or whatever Eternal Masters.
Probably.
Yeah. It was in a Master's set. It was in a Master's set. Yeah, Master's 25. I think.
I'm curious on the exact timeline. I think you are correct on that. Here's
because they announced the unbanning, and then like a week later, preview started.
Here's a bug list that would have been Jund. That's sure, whatever.
Dark Confidants in with
and
Unbanning
Sandcaster Mage.
Yeah, they're cutting red for blue
because they want to run. They want to like jam Deathray Shaman and everything.
We're getting even closer to that.
There's your 4 of Thoughtcast.
Affinity list. 3 Arcbound Ravengers. What are people thinking?
I don't know.
What kind of pod is this one?
Absence Pilgrim. Oh yeah.
Kiki pod with 4 Kikis.
There's a Zealous Conscript.
And hell, maybe they were running 4 Kikis the entire time.
Oh yeah, it always ran 4 Kikis.
That was, I don't know why. That's crazy.
Because it was a pod deck, and you wanted to get pod cards, and then if somebody killed your Kiki, you just went and got another one.
Just played another one and copied something else.
Have you guys seen this mana cost?
Because you keep an angel in your hand, and then when they kill your Kiki, you like jam your angel, and then Kiki, I guess it wouldn't die because the angel. Anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say sequencing's a little weird here. And then Storm.
Twins all the way at the bottom of these lists. Why'd they even ban that card?
I know, that's what I'm thinking. This whole time.
Increasing Vengeance, that's a card I
Increasing Vengeance.
Where are you
that's
seeing
the
that?
fork.
in the Storm deck.
Oh, yeah.
It's a fork.
It was a one of in some.
Oh, I thought that was the. Oh, never mind. I'm thinking of a different card.
I am a little surprised at how early we were seeing that. I thought that was a later thing. Chicago. So we probably had people going to this
one.
Jacob Wilson, and then Josh Utter Layton with John. This pretty stock list.
And your Flores. Oh,
Nope.
Shane McDermott.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's an Iowa City guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
really?
Yeah, I know Shane.
Gift controls.
John, they cut the kitchen finks.
Yep.
I just want to note that. They cut it for Lingering Souls.
See?
Mhm.
They John just putting Lingering Souls in. We can't cast it because there's no white mana.
But you can
there
pitch
is.
it. Well, yeah.
There's
There is.
Deathrite Shaman.
They have one.
They ran a
Godless
one
Shrine.
of Godless Shrine. Okay.
But
Because
yeah,
Tech
have
Edge-
four
You know why
Deathrite
it's a
Shaman.
Godless Shrine? Because you either need black or white. You never need, if it's white, you never need it to be black.
Yep.
And then, you can. The big thing was pitching the Lingering Souls to Liliana.
I love that the Liliana art changed. Like when we were looking at it before and you clicked on Lily, it was the original Innistrad one, and now it's showing this one.
This
I didn't
random
realize
one.
that.
Cawblade. This is the Blade Splicer, like mid range with blue
Yeah.
cards in it.
Yep.
Affinity Birthing Pod, which is.
This one has the Archmage. That's funny.
This is the Kiki, and they're starting to trim them.
The last one had the Archmage.
Yeah.
Previous-
This is getting
previous-
closer to what
yeah,
I remember.
With
And
the
then-
Zealous Conscript, the one of Conscripts, yeah.
So Alex always played this. This was his first modern deck. He loved this deck, and when they banned Deathrite Shaman, it murdered this deck.
Yeah.
Shane, I was going through this. I recognize Shane on here.
Gifts control.
I didn't know
so
he
this
top
is-
aided a Grand Prix.
This is
That's
Unburial,
pretty cool.
right? The game plan was just Unburial.
You
rights,
gifts,
so
yeah. Gifts your Unburial Rights into Elish Norn and
Gotcha.
It was man.
Crime Punishment.
I played a Shadow and
That's
Out in my
awesome.
list for the longest time for this deck.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember like Shadow Doubts, like people were wanting like 2 or 3 of them in the board. Yeah, absolutely.
The Tron deck. I don't think it's changed much since the
Is
last.
Emrakul-
Yeah, there's the 3 of Wormcoil Engine.
Is
and
Emrakul
more
legal, or do people just want the new one instead?
It's legal.
It's legal.
If the Emrakul Alliance Tour never got banned. They just people prefer.
You see
Promise that.
you see it in sideboards if you
Oh,
hate Mill.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Twin in 8th place again.
Yep.
Let's see here. I think we got
I mean,
Toronto.
In Twins'
December.
defense, they banned Bloodbraid too and Deathrite Shaman, so it's not like Twin just got blindly banned. Like,
True.
They banned a bunch of the Jun stuff
It's
too.
you can see Jun goes this way, Twin and Birthing Pod go this way, and it's like, yeah. Thundermaw Hellkites was a weird one, but
yeah, that didn't stick around. for
that
long.
was with
Neither
Lingering
did Lotus
Souls.
Cobras. This
Hilarious.
is a whole
Yeah.
different ballgame.
Dismember though.
Yeah.
Seeing Dismember.
Yeah,
I don't know
Dismember.
if you've seen
Dismember
very
stuck
much of
around
that.
for a long time.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that card's amazing. Card's
Also-
always been amazing, and I think it
Yeah,
will
Mana
always will.
Circles.
Like being able to pay 4 life in 1 colorless mana.
Yep.
That's
These were $20 for the longest time.
Mana
Yeah.
Circles were so expensive.
yeah.
Melirpod, Affinity. With what
With
players?
with 3 Ravagers.
Blasphemy. Escape Shift.
I thought they came in a set. I didn't know you could buy them
I'm like,
individually.
I bought mine as 4. I know Matt
I got
bought-
mine as 4.
Matt-
Yeah.
Maddie
I only got one.
his
Up.
as
I
a
got
4.
one. as
You
well,
only got
so-
one.
Yeah, but I didn't even
That's all
get a
right.
chance to play.
You
the
didn't
deck,
spend
so-
$60 a piece on yours.
No,
either.
no, I didn't.
That's what I did.
I think mine were like 20.
Well, mine are OG foil ones.
I traded. So when
I'll do it.
Eldrazi, the first black like white version of that deck,
Mhm.
like actually gained popularity, those cards spiked like a son of a bitch. I traded all of that in and bought Affinity.
Oh yeah. Tyler
Uh,
keeps messaging me. He goes, "What do you have for Affinity? What do you have for Affinity?" I'm like, "I mean, I got stuff." He
Why
wants
do
to. He wants to play
Hardened.
Hardened Scales
Oh.
at this GP at the RCQ circuit.
God, there's so much mental math with that deck, though. I just like you sit there and you're just like, oh, I could.
Right? I wanted to again. I want to cast my Tarmogoyfs and turn them sideways.
Yeah.
John
I
Stern.
have to think in my real
Escape
life.
Ship,
I don't
Blue
know
White
how to
Control.
Magic Right?
This list is kind of a weird one. The
Talisman of
Wall
Progress.
moments.
That's adorable.
3 Elspeths,
What is
3
this?
Gideons,
Whoa.
3 Jasons.
Oh, it's a blue white. It's like Super Friends. It's a blue
Yeah.
white Super Friends.
But this is pre the Planeswalker rule.
Yeah, because that's why there's only one Jace, only
Right.
one Gideon, and
Right.
only one Chandra. Because
Right.
there wasn't a
only one
lot
Elspeth.
of each.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Elspeth. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Okay. Set releases, there's 4 of them. Some Dark Ascension. Right off the bat, you have
Huntmaster,
Gravecrawler.
Grafdigger's Cage,
Thalia comes up later.
Duras
Huntmaster-
Messenger.
Huntmaster eventually replaced Bloodbraid when Bloodbraid got banned.
Yes.
Huntmaster went.
Mhm.
Yep.
Faithless Looting is probably the biggest card on this list. Lingering
Yeah.
Souls was critical.
You forget about our girl Thalia?
Yeah, but she doesn't affect.
She doesn't
Yeah,
matter
she's
in
not
modern.
great in modern. Yeah.
I
She
know. Dude,
almost
I'm with you,
never-
man. I love my legacy.
Mattered that much.
The format that has Caracas doesn't care about that.
Avacyn, Cavern of Souls. Gristlebrand never really showed up. I put it on the list.
No, Gristlebrand was definitely a legacy card, not so much modern.
Restoration.
No, Gristlebrand did see some of the
Goryo's
play in the
Vengeance.
Goryo's Vengeance decks.
Yeah.
There was, and
Yeah,
the
Neil
Through the
form.
Breach decks played him a little bit too.
So I write down every single card that I've ever seen played in Modern.
Oh, that makes
and
sense.
then like some of them more than others, obviously.
Yeah.
Like Restoration Angel is a real card.
Pillar of Flame.
meh. Then the Faith
Face
Reward we brought
that played
up.
for a little while and then went away.
Uh,
Master of the Pearl Trident kind of give a resurgence to Merfolk.
yeah, it was important that they got that other lord.
Yeah.
It really was. Return to Ravnica, the Shockland reprints was insane.
Mhm.
Those were without those Modern wouldn't have taken off. Like
Well,
it
modern, yeah, because right before those got reprinted, they were hitting like $40-$50 a piece for each of the Shocklands.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was just like regular versions. I remember talking to somebody like some of the foil originals that I have were like $300, $400, $500 a piece.
And this was back in
And this was way back then.
2011,
Yeah,
2012.
like I know they're stupid expensive now, but they're now expensive because of the nostalgia, not the availability.
Yeah.
I watched people trading dual lands for actual
Shocks.
dual lands for shocks.
Yeah.
I witnessed that. Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't happen every day, but
So that shotgun reprint was
I should
way,
do that.
way,
I only got
way
$10 a
critical.
piece of my dual lands.
like I don't want to underscore. I want to make sure people understood like how critical. If they didn't reprint those, I don't know if Modern would have amounted to.
I mean, it would have because that
close
was
to
the
what it
format
was.
that Wizards was pushing. Wizards had kind of backed off of Standard
Mhm.
because Standard is going to sell itself. Here's the new product. Buy our product. Here's the new product. Buy our product. Well, how do they want to run the events? Well, they're not going to get people showing up to these Standard events because it's hard to justify buying all the product. But Modern, if they want to, I think that the format would have picked up because people would have done it anyway. And similar to what it is now, Modern is still a huge format in the area, and it's still what Ragavans are $40 a piece now. The rings are like 60, right? And are they down
40-ish,
now? 40,
yeah.
50. Okay.
They're
and then
realistic. Like,
the Bowmasters are $40 a piece or whatever they are. Like things still have that high dollar value. But one thing that we didn't talk about much on here, and you didn't really go set by set, Tarmogoyf broke the value. Before Tarmogoyf came out, when you looked at a Magic card, with the exception of like your vintage stuff, like your Moxes and your Power and all that vintage like Moat and all the old stuff, cards didn't have more than a $15 to $20 price tag.
Right.
And I remember thinking like $20 is like top of a regular card. And then Tarmogoyf came out and it just kept going up and kept going up and kept going up and eventually hit bigger and bigger and bigger. And so as a whole, whether we liked it or not, that affected the entire market of the cards. Every card now no longer has a ceiling.
Right.
What is this card going to sell for? You know, even a few months ago, what was it? The Meat Hook Massacre was like $80 a piece.
Mhm.
For just a regular pack
in print.
in print card. Like this was, not only was it in print, like it was, and it was a mythic. So mythics have a whole different conversation.
In print
But
standard
it's,
set card.
yeah. And
Or there's like Shieldred now. It's
yeah, the
$76.
Shieldred is $70. Like all of these things, like but Tarmogoyf was the first one. Tarmogoyf
Right.
was the first card that basically broke the ceiling on the price point. And so the dual lands, the shock lands, yeah, it was good to reprint them for two reasons. Number one, it was good to get them in print again because Wizards is going to shove this format down your throats. This is the format they're going to support because we can't support Legacy because we can't reprint any of the good cards.
Well, so I guess from my perspective as like a player, there was literally a card availability issue.
That's true.
Who was going to trade their shocklands?
I never ran into that.
Yeah,
yeah.
It was like people had. If you had been playing, you had these cards in there. Like, sure, you might have had some at the store, but the moment this got announced, boom, they all got poached up.
Yep.
And so, I know I experienced this specifically with because I started really playing. I got these types of shocks eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And I borrowed shocks in the meantime from Paul, but the Celestial Colonnades were the exact same situation. I had to scrounge for those.
Because the availability for the
in Termagants, there was just physically not enough cardboard to go around.
So World Wake ran into the same thing that Future Sight did, and it was short printing. Mm-hmm. Because of the way World Wake was in the early days when they did the block format, you had big set, little set, little set. But what Zendikar did is Zendikar had the big set and then a little set, and then, we're going to dump the second little set and we're going to put another big set out. So all of the cards from Zendikar, or all the cards from World Wake, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Celestial Colonnade, all the other cards from that set.
Raging Ravine. Yeah.
Raging Ravine. Just all of that stuff all of a sudden is not getting drafted. It's not getting opened as prize support because Rise of the Eldrazi came out and that's what we're playing with now. Mm-hmm. So there was this short window. The same thing happened with Future Sight. Future Sight was the third set, but people were burned out on it because it was the third set in the format, and it was a nightmare to try to draft because let's figure out how many mechanics we can throw into one set, and some of them don't even make sense.
Yeah.
But Future Sight, and then whatever the core set was, came out like 2 months later. Yeah. So it was like super quick turnaround. So that's one of the other reasons that Termagants kept going up and up and up and up and up because there wasn't the availability. Mm-hmm. And
Rowan, just for your information, I believe all our previous episodes should be up on YouTube.
Yes,
they are. I watched them all earlier today.
If you go to the Pro Play official, it's under live, and then they're labeled as the State of Modern Podcast 1, 2, 3 XYZ. I don't know if we talked about that, the old school drafting and like how that affected card availability, because that was really how cards got open.
Well, it did locally because and granted, this was about the time that your big websites, Card Kingdom, Star City, TCG Player, like a lot of those were starting to hit big. But for the most part, if you couldn't get your card locally, you had to like eBay it, and that was a nightmare.
Risky.
And so like, if your local shop didn't have it, and so that's why I would push when I was running the shop, draft. Let's draft. Like, everybody's going to draft because that's how I'm going to get restock. Because everybody's opening product. Zendikar fetch lands. People open up Zendikar fetch lands. They're like, I don't want. Why am I going to pay life to go get a land?
Yeah,
I'll take it.
I'll take them all.
Yeah. And so the same thing happened. And with the shock lands, when they announced that they were reprinting the shock lands, one of two things happened. People were like, I'll wait. I'll pick them up when they come out. Or, I have shocklands. Let me off them now when you're going to give me $15 a piece on them. And then I'll just rebuy them in 3 months when they're $8 a piece. And whatever, like I bought them up.
Well, back then, I don't even remember being that certain. Like the economy we didn't have as much data as we do now. And people were a little weary even to let go of those cards, like Termagants, for example. But, I was talking to somebody about maybe doing another one of these, but hitting more of like trading and the card economy stuff and what affects those numbers. So looking at all of those tournaments and the year and the ups and downs, do you kind of agree with your statement as the same archetypes and the same cards are getting played as they were back then?
Well, the same archetypes are getting played. It's definitely not the same cards. I love Dark Confidant. I love Dark Confidant. That guy is so much fun. Is he good right now? No. He's got a 1 toughness, so he doesn't win the Lightning Bolt question. But then the reality is, if you look at all the decks in play right now, especially in the modern format, the only deck that's even really playing Lightning Bolt are going to be the Delver decks.
Yeah.
And
iffy.
Yeah, and that's if they're even playing them. you have so many different alternatives that the Jund is the same mechanics. So
I don't agree with that. I think it's solely based, like, the deck only exists because of the Renin 6 and Urza Saga combination.
but your nuts and bolts are still the same. Tarmogoyf is my beater. I still have Thoughtseize and Inquisition. And spot removal. Terminate and so the differences are
you still have your removal package.
I still have my removal package. I still have my beaters. The beaters are now Tarmogoyf and Urza Saga, which Urza Saga is a beater. Like it's not
your slot. Yeah, your slots are the same.
The slots are the same
with that deck.
Renin 6 is just Renin 6 is the ramp. I think Renin 6 sort of replaced Bob. Like Bob, it seems weird thinking that, but like Bob was your card advantage, and that's what Renin 6 is giving me is my card advantage.
And the 2 slot.
And especially with what's the Horizon land? Nurtured Peatland. Yeah. So some of the lists are running Nurtured Peatland. So then now we've got our card draw as well as our card engine. And obviously Urza Saga is going to give us all sorts of value. And you still have Tarmogoyf. Now with the Orc, like the Orc Bowmaster is going to be your incremental damage as well. It's both spot removal. It's also, straight removal because you can block with it. You can also just get your incremental damage in there. But you still run your Thoughtseize, you still run your Inquisitions, you still run your Terminates and your Abrupt Decays or whatever other, like it's either Abrupt Decay or Assassin's Trophy. It's kind of your choice. Engineered Explosives are still on the board because they're more relevant now than they were then.
I guess let's expand out from Jun. Well, let me attack this one more time.
Yeah.
Okay, so the archetypes are the same. The cards some of them are similar. I'd say most of the other archetypes, the cards are almost pretty much completely different at this point. But if the archetypes haven't changed, are we just changing out cards for fun and we're losing value in we're losing accessibility into the format, us who are completely vested. Is that really? I know they want to revive old archetypes or give archetypes that haven't really been given the spotlight.
Yeah.
The spotlight.
Well,
I guess if we're not changing the archetype, why are we like switching out cards?
Why are we switching out cards?
Bit,
and that's a good point. The Liliana isn't as good as she used to be. Bloodbraid Elf is too slow. And if you're looking at some of the other archetypes, you've got like the Court of Calling with the Collected Company. Like that's not even seeing play anymore. Your decks are so one-dimensional now, where you've got Scam that all it does is want to control the environment. So Thoughtseize is going to be a great card. Get them. That card is always going to be good.
Oh yeah.
The only way that they could print a new version of it is to print a worse version. And really, that's what it comes down to.
Well, the one that's coming out in this new set.
But Grief is a different.
It's a different animal.
Yep. Yeah. But then you've got your other combo decks, and what we didn't see here that we'll eventually see is going to be some of your Living End decks, and the Living End decks basically just transition to the Rhinos deck.
Living End decks, I think, could exist in this format.
Yeah, but why would you want to play Living End when you can just play Rhinos?
No, I'm sorry. I'm thinking back here.
Oh,
I was like, another question is like, what are the decks that? And I won't ask you this. Is like, what are some of the decks that could have existed at this point that didn't show up? Like Lantern Control, I think could exist.
Lantern Control could exist.
Living End did. Towns played it forever.
Yeah, Living End could be here. It wasn't as consistent because you didn't have enough cyclers.
Yeah, they weren't.
It was once you got enough cyclers, it was worth it.
There's like Amonkhet and then M19.
Amonkhet really kind of kicked it into high gear because
that's where
they did a bunch of the cycling.
Big dumb creatures on them too.
Creatures with cycling, yeah. But I think that the gameplay is going to be the same because you're always going to have your blue control decks with your lots of control and then your handful of little creatures that are going to be big creatures. This early builds we were just looking at were fairies, and then we saw some Delver iterations, and now we just have Murktide as your top end. And Delver's still there. Dragon Rage Channeler is hit or miss. But now a lot of them are splashing the black because I want my Bowmasters because that card's really good. Your Tron decks are still here. They obviously eventually banned the Eldrazi Monument or whatever is Ivugan. They banned Ivugan, so the Eldrazi kind of faded in and out.
Not a big.
Obviously, what we don't see here is when Zendikar, Battle for Zendikar, or whatever it was, came out, and we had Eldrazi Summer, Winter, whatever that like that.
Right.
Someday we'll get to that one.
Yep.
But the archetype with Tron is still there. You've still got, here's all my Tron lands. I've got my Ancient Stirrings to get there. So all of the nuts and bolts are still there. It's just sort of the one-offs. Like here's this card there and this card there. Like my current Jund deck could be managed the same as this one, but this one came out 2010, so 10 years ago. What year is this? 22. Anyway,
about 10 years.
Yeah, let's say in a 10-year window, I've swapped out Bloodbraid Elves, and I've swapped out Lilianas, and I've swapped out Kitchen Finks, whatever. And I'm now running Ren and 6, and Deathray Shaman came and went, and
Dark Confidant. The removal. That's the thing is like removal has not kept up with the creatures.
No,
and that was a big thing. Like that was a big criticism is let's make creatures great again. I think that was a big.
But then you're gonna print Unholy Heat. Like I'm gonna just take out a 6 toughness creature with 1 red mana. Okay.
Well, we got to do something to keep Amulet Titan in the format still for some fucking reason.
It hasn't been one big, like, I didn't build this deck in 2010, and here I am in 2023, I gotta swap out all these cards. It was incremental. We did run Dark Confidant and Ren and 6 at the same time.
But you don't feel like it was within the last 3 years with the Horizon sets that you got that you have to change now.
Urza Saga did that. When Urza Saga came out with the second Horizon set, it was like, this is the next level.
The foot on the gas.
We have completely shifted the entire dynamic of the deck. Like, Ren and 6 was already nutty, and we loved Ren and 6 with the fetch lands, and that was fun.
Well, that was just MH2 as a whole, right? Like, that whole set was just...
Yeah, because it was Ragavan was gas, too.
This is new.
Well, and when Modern Horizons 1 came out...
Ragavan, Darcy, Prismatic Ending.
Yep. Unholy Heat.
Unholy Heat, yeah.
So when Modern Horizons 1 came out, using Jund as an example still, just because that's what I'm familiar with, when Modern Horizons 1 came out, Seasoned Pyromancer was the next big hotness.
Yes.
Seasoned Pyromancer was like, we've got, like, it's mana it's not mana fixing, but it's draw control. Like, I'm going to turn these basics into real cards, and
I was a bigger fan of that power level. Like Urza was good. Seasoned Pyromancer wasn't an automatic throw in though.
We put like 2 in.
People had to figure things out in numbers with it, and then the Ranger Captain. Like a lot of those cards, like these are good cards. They will be played at some point, but it wasn't. You have to have.
Like, well, and a lot of the things that happen with Modern Horizons is everything got overshadowed by Hogak.
True.
Hogak came out and just dominated the format. It doesn't even matter what other cards you wanted to play with, because you're going to play Hogak, because Hogak is the best deck in the format.
Yeah,
that card was stupid. That card is so much fun. And there was some pro that was talking about it. There was some pro, I don't remember what the tournament was. I think it was a GP or a PT or something, but they're like, the interviewer's talking to the guy, and he's like, hey, I see you're on Hogak this season. What made you decide to play that? And he goes, I'm going to play it while I can, because this thing's going to get banned.
Absolutely.
And it did, and that makes sense, and whatever. But the short answer, I guess, that I've, winded myself. The short answer is it's not an incremental thing. I think putting the new sets out is fine. I think that putting the straight to modern sets is healthy. Sometimes it's irritating from a price point perspective, but I ran a business for 8 years. And even before that, my experience with Battlezone was started because I had years of retail experience managing businesses that I didn't own, just managing the businesses. That's why my partner grabbed me to run Battlezone, because that's what I was doing. Business is business, and Wizards of the Coast at the end of the day is a company. It's super frustrating that they keep popping out sets like rabbits and just more and more and more sets. I love my Angel collection. I went for a long time collecting all of the angels, every printing, all the time. I can't keep up. It's not. Ultimately, it's not worth it to me to keep up because I have my cube. I play Legacy. I play Modern. I play Commander. I play Canadian Highlander. Like I play so many formats that most of those overlap, but still, I can't just buy the collections. So dumping these cards into the format makes sense from a business perspective. And it makes sense for a format perspective because we want fun, exciting cards in the format. So Grist, which I would love to see a lot more play in Modern. Mm-hmm. He's just not that good in Modern.
Yep, I agree.
But that's because we don't have Green Sun Zenith. Green Sun Zenith.
You don't want to unban anything. You don't want to unban anything.
I think Green Sun Zenith is fine. I think it's fine.
I try not to look at the ban list and be like, man, I wish this. I mean, I would love to have Deathrite Shaman back, but I'm okay with him not being in. And what would it help? Like if I run Deathrite Shaman in my deck, what am I gonna take out? The Wrenn and 6? I'm gonna take out, but like I don't want to eat my lands with the Deathrite Shaman. I want to return them with Wrenn and 6.
I guess I'm just now coming up with this, but It's like there's certain cards on the ban list that are like the cards that were on the ban list because of the Fears from Extended of Bitter Blossom, Cawblade shit.
Mm-hmm.
And the format has evolved. Splitter Twin, Evenbirthing Pod, Green Sun Zenith. I think these are relics of the past that are just sitting on the ban list. And I don't think anybody's even like looking at it.
I think Birthing Pod would be too slow. So Birthing Pod is fine.
Right. And we commented that one's like sorcery speed, pay life.
This format can't have Green Sun Zenith. They can't have Green Sun Zenith. That card is way too powerful.
What's the hell?
It's insane. The card it does everything. The card is nutty in Legacy. I mean, we don't have Natural Order in Modern,
but we are turning into Legacy.
But we are turning into Legacy, and I think that if we get to that level where enough stuff comes into the format, like eventually when we do get Force of Will, I doubt we'll ever get Brainstorm unless they decide let's do it. Let's flip the switch. We're gonna switch it over, and Modern is now Modern. And I think what's gonna happen is Pioneer will eventually progress, and then they'll create another format.
We have more free spells in Modern, I think, than we had like actual free spells in Legacy at the time of like pre-Modern.
Well, there's the alliance. You have the alliance cycle that's not very good, but you have it. Like you've got the 5 of those. You
definitely have more played free spells now than you did.
Especially like even some really obscure ones like from Cold Snap, Soul Spike. Seeing some play in some black red
right now. Yeah.
What's that green? The green elf from Cold Snap. That was a combo. Allosaurus Rider. That was a combo for a little while.
All those types of combo decks have just been stamped out, including Storm, because of. I'm pretty sure it's mostly Scam and Grief. Like Thoughtseize the deck, and then
but those.
Rhinos has a lot of. Good
you weren't seeing a lot of Storm anyway because Storm is just hard to do in Modern.
Yeah.
I think if they could work out a way to get like an ad nauseum kind of deck in Modern would be super sick, but you don't have Lion's Eye Diamonds. Like they could that'd be a terrible idea putting Dark Ritual in Modern.
Well, and that's the thing.
I'm on board. Let's do it. Let's put Dark Ritual in Modern. Dark Ritual and Cabal Ritual, and I mean they gave us Cabal Coffers, and it really didn't matter. Like we have Urborg and Cabal Coffers, and it doesn't matter.
I mean, a whole deck archetype got built out of it, right? Like Mono Black Coffers deck is a real thing.
Well, and there's the Yawgmoth's deck, but those are the format relies so much on multicolor decks. Like you just don't have like you got Hammer Time, but still like for the most part you don't have monocolor decks.
Oh yeah.
You just don't.
And the Yawgmoth deck, that's the toolbox deck now currently, right?
Yeah, because you got rid of
that's ranked like 8th place.
Yeah, exactly.
But you don't have your Court of Calling decks that you used to have. You don't have the collected company decks you used to have.
And I guess is that something where like me as a player who wanted to play the creature toolbox decks, but I loved specifically like the Devoted Druid combo, is that something where, what do you say to those players who have had that deck archetype, but now it's flipped into a deck completely different that they don't want to play anymore? you know.
Well, that's hard to do. One of the things that I've talked to about some of the pro players that I know, because I with being in the game for 30 years, I know all different levels of players.
Yeah.
And there's two different type of players. I want to play my deck. This is my deck. This is the deck that I'm going to play.
Yep.
That's me. I'm a Jund player. I'm going to play Jund forever. I have a different mentality of Legacy. I'm going to go. But the reality is, if you want to play competitively, that's where you've got to decide. Are you going to play competitively? Because if you're going to play competitively, you're going to just have to keep kind of rolling with the times. What's new? What's good? What's seeing play? Right. And a couple of friends of mine are like, I'm going to the tournament. Let's look at the list. What's the best deck in the format? Okay, give me Scam. Let's go.
The best deck, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Or there's other players that are going to be, I want to play this deck. I want to play my Tarmogoyfs. Whether they're good or bad, I'm going to play my Tarmogoyfs. And if you want to keep playing your type of format, you like the pod deck, you like the cord deck, you like that deck. There is other formats. They're called Canadian Highlander. They're fantastic formats that you can do anything you want.
Shameless plug. Canadian Highlander.
And who controls the ban list on that? Does WotC?
No, WotC has nothing to do with the ban list on Canadian. There isn't a ban list. But Modern, I think that there's a place out there for everything. And there's a guy that comes to the shop all the time, and he plays Soul Sisters. Is that deck good right now? No. But that's the deck that he plays. And that's the deck that he has. The thing about the format is that though you have to buy cards all the time, once you have your mana base, you're done. Because WotC's not going to print another Steam Vents. They're going to reprint Steam Vents.
Triomes.
They're not, exactly. But they're not going to, it's not Steam Vents and it's not Watery Grave.
They have not been outclassed.
It's not Fetch Shock.
Well, I guess
it's not Fetch Shock. It's
most land that Fetch Shock and removal have not really super been outclassed.
No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, Terminate is really good.
Still good, yeah.
Terminate's still good. WotC's is still good. Fatal Push is still good.
Lightning Bolt's relevant.
I mean, Lightning Bolt got printed in 1993.
That's true. That's true.
And they've tried to up it, but they can't.
The white stuff has been upped.
I don't know. I would take a Source of Flashes over Path to Exile.
No. Like, you do. It's called Solitude.
Solitude, Prismatic Ending, Leyline Binding.
Leyline Binding's pretty good. Yeah, Prismatic Ending's pretty sick. Like, that card really irritates me, especially in Legacy.
Card probably shouldn't have been printed the way it was.
I gotta go. Thank you for this.
Thank
you guys can wrap up. I have to pick up a kid.
Yeah.
But, we'll have to talk Legacy sometime.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Thanks again, Matt, for coming.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for coming, man.
You want to do the... we'll run through that percentage of the metagame real quick and then close her out?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
I'm going to walk in front of the camera before you do that.
Oh,
bye, everybody.
Thanks again, Matt.
Yep.
So back in 2012, we wrapped up with 56% aggro, 15 of that represented by Jund, followed by 11% represented by Affinity. And then like Rug, Teamer Rug, Jeskai aggro, a little bit of Martyr Life in there too, the life gain decks. But
it falls off from
the real ones are like Jund, Affinity, Rug. Those are our big ones. Maybe a little bit of Jeskai in there too. Going into Control at 19% of the meta game for 2012. Urzatron showing up quite a bit more than we expected earlier on. Definitely was a format maker with...
It was a pretty easy deck to get together.
Yeah.
Affinity was, surprisingly at the time. Tron was. Jund was not accessible at all. Mm-hmm. And then Storm is like always been accessible.
And then we have our blue-white Stoneblade wannabes, the blue-white mid-range deck at 5% of the metagame, followed by Gifts Control at 2%. And then Scape Shift right behind it at 2%.
The 2%, that 2% surprises me.
That's pretty high for post-ban, like halfway through the year.
Well, yeah, I guess, yeah. I was expecting it to be like at least 4%, but yeah, that 2% would make sense.
Yeah. And then finally, we got Combo at 25% of the metagame with 9% Creature Toolbox, which was probably almost entirely birthing pod decks pre-pod ban. Some Twin Exarch at 6%, so it definitely did show up. Blue-Red Storm at 4%. Infect at 3%, and then Sunnyside up at 0.8%.
Even though it wasn't banned.
Yep. Wow. I guess, I mean, maybe we'd see some similar results down the line with KCI too, with like those really hard to play in combo decks where it's like there's so much going on that it's very hard to keep
That
it
deck,
straight.
I can tell you for a fact that deck was way easier in KCI.
Oh yes, 100%. Yeah, because you didn't play around with stupid rules interactions.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the face reward just got printed in M13, which was almost halfway through the year.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was truly popularized by the Pro Tour, and that's when it actually got some amount of play.
Right.
People knew how to attack it as well after that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and Rest in Peace was printed, so that just nukes that deck.
Yeah. Yep, and I even remember seeing some of the RTR Pro Tour footage where they were running like mainboard, sideboard, Rest in Peace. Like Gabriel Nassif was running mainboard Rest in Pieces.
Really?
Yes, and he was nailing like Tarmogoyfs, and if he went up against the Sunny Side Up deck, it's just like they're screwed. He slams that turn too. You can't do very much against that. So
you can cantrip through your deck pretty good to get to an answer, but it wasn't like you had a Force of Virtue or a Force of Vigor.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Yeah, we didn't cover Rest in Peace coming into the format. That became like one of the go-to graveyard interaction.
Still to this day, I think it's just fantastic. I can't think of much better graveyard interaction than Rest in Peace.
White was the color that if you wanted the best sideboard options, you went into white, and within this year, within Innistrad to RTR, which was 1 year, you got Stony Silence and Rest in Peace, and those are the cards that they're talking about.
Yeah.
Yep. And we passed through some of those probably in like the Naya Kiki chord list.
And
sideboards like that.
Yep.
And yeah. Not much more from this year. Jun is by far the king.
Mm-hmm.
I think Deathrite Shaman could be unbanned.
Maybe we can do some testing in a what if game. That'd be kind of fun. Deathrite Shaman versus some of the modern game stuff.
Or sit down just some not just for this podcast, but like maybe a side like 30-minute video where we go through the ban list and we talk about what cards we think could and could not get banned, and then build decks based off of that or something.
Oh yeah. Like an experimental. Okay, we're gonna unban these cards tonight. See how they do. Mm-hmm. But we could even get people on it too. Pull an 8-man group together and be like, okay, here's the deal. Modern tournament minus these cards unbanned. Go nuts.
See if our playtesting matches up with Watsy's playtesting.
Yeah. Our 8-man tournaments match up with Watsy's collective data mind.
So this is kind of completely off topic of the podcast, but I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast today, and he had like a professional pool player on the podcast, and he's telling all these old like gambling grinder stories, and I was just like, damn man, I miss those days of like playing for packs all the time and like going to a tournament and only having money for tournament entry and not being able to eat all day, and like when pro players were like, oh, make sure you like get a good night's sleep and prepare and all that stuff, and it's just like
you're staying up until 3 o'clock in the morning play testing the night before and making sure you got your list together and your sideboard list written up. Oh yeah, like I can think of even when we went to like Vegas, there was a pop-up event happened. The professor did a win a trap popper tournament, and Brandon's like, I want to go in with mono blue Tron. I want to do it. And so him and Spencer sat there for like 3 fucking hours the night before, just like running down matchups, trying to figure out, okay, what's the best, how many copies do we need of this card in here? It was completely a unique deck. Like nobody else had one like it.
Yeah, I remember it.
So yeah, and it was just stories like that are so much fun. That's what makes Magic fun. So.
All right. Well, let's end it on that note. Thanks for joining us, guys, and I hope everybody enjoys us in the future watches.
Yeah, yep. And we'll probably be back next week with it again, I'm assuming. So.
Yes, and then we'll take a week off because I will be in Colorado and
Oh.
New Mexico.
All right.
So we'll have a little bit of a break, or maybe you'll just do it without me. I don't know.
Maybe we'll run some games or something. We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
So.
All right.